A billionaire. A homeless disguise. A single act of kindness that would expose the cruelest lie Manhattan's elite had ever told. What happens when the man everyone ignored becomes the one who sees everything? When the woman no one noticed becomes the only one who mattered? This is a story about power, deception, and the moment truth walked through a door no one thought to guard. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Now, let me take you back to that freezing November night when everything changed. The temperature had dropped to 18 degrees by the time Damon Vale pushed through the brass-handled doors of Aurelius, Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant. His breath came in shallow bursts, fogging in the frigid air that rushed in behind him. He wore a torn pea coat that smelled like the subway grate he'd collapsed against 3 blocks away, fingerless gloves with holes spreading across the palms, and boots held together with duct tape that had long since lost its stick. Nobody looked like that in Aurelius. Not on a Saturday night. Not ever. The restaurant occupied the ground floor of a building that cost more per square foot than most people made in a year. Crystal chandeliers threw soft amber light across tables draped in Irish linen. The ceiling soared 15 feet high, decorated with imported Italian frescoes of pastoral scenes, shepherds and vineyards and skies that had never known pollution. The air smelled like truffle oil and old money, like privilege so normalized it had become invisible to the people breathing it. Damon stood in the entrance, swaying, his vision blurred at the edges. The trembling had started in his left hand 20 minutes ago, spread up his arm, and now gripped his entire body in rhythmic spasms he couldn't control. Cold sweat soaked through his undershirt. His heart hammered against his ribs in a pattern that felt wrong, skipping beats, doubling up, racing ahead like it was trying to outrun something. He didn't know what was happening to him. He'd left his son with the nanny, told her he'd be back in an hour. That was 90 minutes ago. He'd been walking to clear his head after another argument with his late wife's parents about custody, about whether a man who worked 80-hour weeks could possibly raise a 5-year-old boy properly, about money and grief, and all the ways people weaponize both. Then the world tilted. His left leg went numb. His tongue thickened. Words he'd known his entire life suddenly scattered like marbles across a hardwood floor. He could see them, but couldn't grab hold. He'd stumbled into an alley, grabbed a dumpster to stay upright. Somewhere in the confusion, he'd lost his phone. Or maybe he'd left it in the car. The details were slippery, melting away faster than he could catalog them. All he knew was that he needed to sit down. Needed warmth. Needed someone to tell him he wasn't dying alone on a Manhattan sidewalk while his son waited for a father who might never come home. So he'd walk toward light, toward the golden glow spilling through Aurelius's windows, toward voices and heat and the kind of civilization that meant doctors and ambulances and people who knew what to do when your body stopped following instructions. "Excuse me, sir." The voice came from his right, sharp, clipped, the kind of tone that communicated disdain before it communicated words. Damon turned his head. The motion sent the room spinning. A man in a charcoal suit approached, mid-40s with hair gelled into submission and a name tag that read Marcus Chen, General Manager. His face held the expression of someone who'd just discovered dog shit on an expensive rug. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Damon tried to speak, his mouth open. Nothing came out but a slurred sound that didn't resemble language. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Are you intoxicated?" The dining room had gone quiet. 47 people. Damon's brain grabbed that number and held it, even as other thoughts dissolved, turned to watch. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Conversations died mid-sentence. A woman in a diamond necklace that probably cost more than a car actually stood up to get a better view. "I need," Damon managed. The words came out thick, wrong. "Something's wrong." "I'm sure it is," Marcus said. His hand clamped onto Damon's elbow. "But you can't address it here. This is a private establishment. We have standards." The grip tightened. Marcus started steering him back toward the door. Damon's legs weren't working right. He stumbled, caught himself on a nearby chair. The elderly man sitting in it recoiled like Damon carried something contagious. "Please," Damon said. The word came clearer this time. "I think I'm having a—" "I don't care what you're having," Marcus interrupted. "You're having it somewhere else." Laughter rippled through the dining room. Not loud. Not cruel, exactly. Just the kind of amusement that happens when people feel superior and safe, when they're watching something uncomfortable happen to someone else and can afford to find it entertaining rather than tragic. A man in a suit that cost $5,000 called out, "Should have tried the soup kitchen, buddy." More laughter. A woman with perfect blonde hair pulled into a bun raised her wine glass in a mock toast. To knowing your place. Marcus's fingers dug into Damon's arm hard enough to bruise. They were 3 feet from the door, cold air already bleeding through the gap. Damon could see the street beyond, dark, empty, freezing. If he went out there in this condition, he'd collapse. He knew it with the same certainty he knew his son's middle name, his own blood type, the password to his company's mainframe. He'd collapse, and nobody would help him. He'd die on the sidewalk while people stepped around his body on their way to nicer places. Wait. The voice was quiet. Female. Young. Marcus stopped. Turned. A woman stood near the service station, holding a water pitcher. She was small, maybe 5'3", with dark hair pulled into a simple ponytail and brown eyes that looked too large for her narrow face. She wore the standard server uniform, black pants, white button-down shirt, black apron tied at the waist. No makeup. No jewelry except a thin silver chain with a cross pendant tucked under her collar. Her name tag read Lena. "Mr. Chen," she said. "I think he might actually be sick." Marcus's expression hardened. "Miss Hart, return to your section." "He's shaking." Lena took a step forward. "Look at him. That's not... People don't shake like that when they're drunk. That's something else." "Your opinion wasn't requested." "I know, but..." "Your section," Marcus repeated, "has 3 tables waiting for refills. I suggest you attend to the customers who actually belong here, rather than the vagrant who wandered in from the street." Lena's jaw tightened. For a moment, Damon thought she'd back down. People usually did when Marcus used that tone. He had the kind of authority that came from being able to fire someone with a phone call, ruin their reputation with a few well-placed words. Instead, Lena set the pitcher on the service station and walked toward them. "Let me get him some water at least," she said. "Then I'll help you walk him out. But he needs water first." Marcus stared at her. "You're risking your job for a bum who can't even speak in complete sentences." "Maybe." Lena met his gaze. "But I'm okay with that." Something in her voice, the quiet firmness, the complete absence of doubt, made Marcus release Damon's arm. He stepped back, brushed imaginary dirt from his sleeve, and gestured with false magnanimity. "Fine, give him water, make it quick. Lena disappeared and returned in 15 seconds with a glass of water. Not cold. Damon noticed that detail, filed it away. Room temperature. Easier to drink when your body was shutting down. She'd thought about that. She held it out. "Can you hold the glass?" Damon reached for it. His hand shook so violently the water sloshed over the rim. "Okay," Lena said softly. "That's okay. I've got it." She brought the glass to his lips, tipped it slowly. Damon drank. The water was the best thing he'd ever tasted, not because of its quality, but because someone had given it to him like he was human, like he mattered. "Better?" Lena asked. Damon nodded. He tried to say thank you, but the words tangled on his tongue. "Don't try to talk," Lena said. She glanced at Marcus. "He needs an ambulance. He needs to leave. He's having a stroke or something. Look at his face. The left side is drooping." Marcus stepped closer, studied Damon with clinical detachment. "I see a homeless man who wandered into the wrong establishment. What I don't see is my problem. You can't be serious. Miss Hart, you have 10 seconds to return to your tables, or you're fired." The dining room was still watching, dozens of eyes tracking every word, every gesture. This was better than the meal they'd paid for. This was theater. Lena looked at Damon, then at Marcus, then back at Damon. "Call an ambulance," she said. Marcus smiled, not warmly. "You're fired." "Fine, call an ambulance anyway." "No." "What?" "This man is trespassing. He'll be escorted from the premises. If he requires medical attention, he can seek it elsewhere. Aurelius is not a charity hospital." Lena's face flushed. You're just going to let him die?" "Nobody's dying. He's drunk and confused, and you're unemployed. Those are the only facts that matter right now." Damon's legs gave out. He didn't feel himself falling. One moment he was standing, the next the floor rushed up to meet him. His skull cracked against the imported Italian tile, a sound like a branch snapping. Blood bloomed warm and sticky across the back of his head. The dining room gasped. Lena dropped to her knees beside him. "Call 911. Right now. Call 911. Marcus pulled out his phone, but he didn't dial. He stood there, watching Damon convulse on his restaurant's floor, thumb hovering over the screen. "You're recording this?" Lena's voice pitched high. "You're actually recording him instead of calling for help." "Evidence," Marcus said calmly, "in case his family tries to sue." Damon's vision tunneled. The chandelier above looked like a dying sun, all its light collapsing into a single bright point. He could hear Lena's voice, soft, urgent, close to his ear. "Stay with me. You're going to be okay. Just stay with me." He wanted to tell her his name, wanted to explain that he had a son, that someone needed to call his driver, that the torn coat and filthy gloves were a disguise, because sometimes he just needed to walk through the city without being recognized, without being Damon Vale, CEO and single father and walking target for every opportunist and gold digger in 3 states. But the words wouldn't come. His body seized. Violent, arrhythmic spasms that felt like electricity coursing through meat. Foam bubbled at the corners of his mouth. "Oh my God." Lena's hand shook as she tried to turn him on his side. "Someone help me. Please, someone." Nobody moved. 47 people sat frozen in their seats, watching a man die the way they might watch a documentary about suffering somewhere distant and foreign. Concerned, perhaps. Even sympathetic. But not enough to actually do anything. Not enough to get involved. Marcus finally dialed 911. He spoke in measured tones, giving the address, describing the situation with clinical efficiency. "Yes, we have an unidentified male, possibly homeless, experiencing what appears to be a seizure. No, I don't know his medical history. Yes, we'll keep him stable until you arrive." He hung up, looked at Lena. "The ambulance will be here in 8 minutes." 8 minutes? Lena's voice cracked. "He might not have 8 minutes." "Then I suggest you pray." Damon's eyes rolled back. The world went white, then gray, then nothing. Well, he woke to sirens and fluorescent lights. No, not woke. Surfaced, like coming up from deep water, breaking through layers of consciousness that felt thick and resistant. Paramedics surrounded him. 2 men and a woman, all wearing Navy uniforms with patches that read NY Presbyterian Emergency Services. They'd strapped him to a gurney. An oxygen mask covered his face. An IV line snaked into his left arm. "BP's stabilizing," one of the men said. "Pupils reactive, still tachycardic, but improving." Damon tried to sit up. Hands pushed him gently back down. "Easy, sir. You've had some kind of neurological event. We're taking you to Columbia Presbyterian. Just relax." Relax. Right. He turned his head, fighting the neck brace they'd fitted him with. He could see the restaurant behind him. The brass doors stood open. Marcus Chen stood in the entrance, arms crossed, watching the paramedics work with the expression of someone supervising the removal of garbage. Lena was gone. Damon tried to ask about her. The oxygen mask muffled his words into meaningless noise. "Don't try to talk," the female paramedic said. "Save your energy." They loaded him into the ambulance. The doors slammed shut, cutting off his view of Aurelius. Damon stared at the metal ceiling, listening to medical equipment beep and whir, feeling the vehicle sway as it navigated Manhattan traffic. He was alive. That woman, Lena, had saved his life. And he didn't even know her last name. Welcome. Marcus Chen stood in the restaurant entrance for 3 minutes after the ambulance left. Then he turned and walked back inside. The dining room buzzed with conversation. Everyone had an opinion about what they'd just witnessed. Most agreed it was terribly sad, of course, the homeless situation in the city. Someone should really do something. Though, what could you do, really? These people made choices. Drugs, probably. Mental illness, sad, yes, but not exactly surprising. Marcus let them talk. He made a circuit of the room, stopping at each table to apologize for the disruption, to assure them that Aurelius maintained the highest standards, that such incidents were extraordinarily rare. He comped 3 meals, offered free dessert to 2 more tables. By the time he returned to his office, he'd successfully transformed a PR disaster into a demonstration of crisis management. People would leave talking about how gracefully the staff had handled an unfortunate situation. His phone buzzed. A text from the owner. Heard there was an incident? Everything under control? Marcus typed back, completely. No issues. We'll send full report tomorrow. He set his phone on his desk and leaned back in his leather chair. Through his office window, he could see the kitchen, stainless steel gleaming, chefs moving in orchestrated chaos, tickets printing in an endless stream. Lena Hart's locker stood in the back corner of the break room. He'd have security clear it out tomorrow. Her final paycheck would be ready by Monday. He'd include a reference letter that said she'd resigned for personal reasons. Professional courtesy. He wasn't a monster. His computer screen flickered as he pulled up the security footage. 12 cameras covered the restaurant, dining room, entrance, kitchen, storage. He found the timestamp, 7:47 p.m. The moment the homeless man had walked through the door. Marcus watched the footage 3 times. The man stumbling in, the confrontation, Lena's defiance, the collapse, the seizure, the ambulance. It was all there. Every angle, every word. Perfect documentation of exactly what had happened. Marcus deleted it. All of it. Every camera, every angle. He dragged the files to the trash, emptied the trash, then ran a secure deletion program that overwrote the data 7 times. By the time he finished, those 12 minutes of footage might as well have never existed. He sat back, satisfied. Whatever happened next, lawsuits, investigations, questions, there would be no evidence. Just his word against the testimony of a fired waitress with no credibility and a homeless man whose brain might be permanently damaged. Marcus Chen had been protecting Aurelius's reputation for 9 years. He wasn't about to let one inconvenient incident ruin his record now. His phone buzzed again. Different number this time. Unknown caller. He answered. Aurelius, Marcus speaking. Mr. Chen. The voice was male, older, with the kind of polished accent that suggested expensive education. My name is James Whitmore. I'm the personal attorney for Damon Vale. Marcus's hand tightened on the phone. I'm sorry. Who? Damon Vale. The man you threw out of your restaurant tonight. The man who collapsed on your floor while you delayed calling for emergency services. The man who's currently in critical condition at Columbia Presbyterian. The office suddenly felt very small. There must be some mistake. The man who came in was homeless. Mr. Vale was wearing a disguise, Whitmore interrupted. He does that occasionally. Helps him move through the city without being recognized. I assume you know who Damon Vale is? Marcus knew. Everyone knew. Damon Vale. CEO of Vale Industries. Net worth estimated at $2.4 billion. Single father after his wife died in childbirth 5 years ago. Notoriously private, famously ruthless in business, the kind of man who could buy Aurelius 12 times over and still have enough left for a vacation home in the Hamptons. I had no idea, Marcus said. His voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. He didn't identify himself. He looked, you have to understand from my perspective. Save it for the lawsuit, Mr. Chen. I'm not calling for an apology. I'm calling because Mr. Vale's family will want to know exactly what happened tonight. I'll need copies of your security footage, all angles, immediately. Marcus's mouth went dry. Of course. I'll have my IT department pull everything and send it to your office first thing tomorrow. Tonight, Mr. Chen. Email it within the hour. Right. Yes, absolutely. Oh, and Mr. Chen, one more thing. Yes? There was a waitress. A woman who tried to help Mr. Vale while you stood there filming him like he was a circus act. I'll need her full name and contact information. Marcus's mind raced. I'm not sure I recall. Lena Hart, you fired her. Don't insult me by pretending you don't remember. Silence. Mr. Chen? I'll get you her information. Good. Because if Mr. Vale dies, your cooperation level tonight will determine whether the Vale family merely destroys your career or destroys your entire life. Do we understand each other? Yes. The line went dead. Marcus sat frozen, phone still pressed to his ear. Through the wall, he could hear the restaurant continuing. Laughter, conversation, the clink of silverware on china. Business as usual. He looked at his computer screen. at the trash icon that contained no deleted files because he'd already made them disappear permanently. Oh God. Oh God, what had he done? Lena Hart rode the subway home at 9:15 p.m. The N train was half empty. Weekend crowds hadn't built up yet. Wouldn't until closer to midnight when the bars started closing. She sat in a corner seat, still wearing her Aurelius uniform, her hands folded in her lap. Her eyes were dry. She'd cried on the walk to the station, angry, frustrated tears that burned hot and accomplished nothing, but now she was just empty, fired. She'd been fired from 3 restaurants in the past 2 years. Never for cause, never for being bad at her job, always for reasons that sounded legitimate in the moment, but collapsed under any real scrutiny. Too slow during rushes, didn't fit the aesthetic. Attitude problems. Translation, she was poor, she looked tired because she was tired. She asked questions when things didn't make sense instead of just following orders. And now, insubordination, prioritizing a vagrant over paying customers. Except he hadn't been a vagrant. She'd known that. Not his name, not his story, but she'd known in her bones that something was desperately wrong. You didn't shake like that from alcohol. You didn't collapse like that from being cold. That had been medical, serious, potentially fatal. And Marcus Chen had stood there filming it. Lena's hands clenched, her nails dug into her palms. The train rattled through darkness. Announcements crackled over the PA system. Next stop, stand clear of the closing doors. If you see something, say something. All the familiar rhythms of city life continuing like nothing had happened. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "How was work, sweetie?" Lena typed back. "Fine. Home soon." Another lie. Her mother was good at detecting lies, had a sixth sense developed over 30 years of Lena trying to hide things that would worry her. But text messages didn't carry tone. Text messages were safe. Her mother was sick, had been sick for 18 months. Stage 3 breast cancer, complicated by diabetes, and an immune system that seemed determined to reject every treatment the doctors tried. The medical bills were astronomical. Insurance covered some of it. Not enough. Never enough. Lena had been working double shifts at Aurelius, saving every dollar, trying to build a cushion large enough that her mother could get the experimental treatment her oncologist kept mentioning, the one that might actually work, the one that cost $60,000. Now she was unemployed. Again. The train pulled into her station. Lena stood, gripped the pole to keep her balance as the car lurched to a stop, and stepped onto the platform. Cold air hit her immediately. The temperature had dropped another 5 degrees since she'd left Aurelius. Forecast said snow by midnight. She climbed the stairs to street level. Her neighborhood looked like neighborhoods always looked at this hour, tired. Corner bodegas with flickering signs, laundromats running empty cycles. Groups of teenagers clustered on stoops, passing around phones and cigarettes. Home was a 4th-floor walk-up 3 blocks from the station. Lena climbed the stairs slowly, her body aching from an 8-hour shift spent on her feet. The building smelled like cooking oil and mildew. Someone's television blared through thin walls, a game show, all bright music and artificial enthusiasm. She unlocked her apartment door. "Mom? I'm back." Her mother sat in the recliner by the window, wrapped in the blue Afghan Lena had bought at a thrift store 2 Christmases ago. Margaret Hart was 53 but looked 70. Cancer did that. Stole years from your face, your posture, your ability to pretend everything was fine. "You're early," Margaret said. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Slow night?" "Something like that." Lena dropped her bag by the door and headed to the kitchen. "Did you eat?" "Had some soup." "Real soup or cup of soup?" "The microwavable kind counts as real." "Mom, I'm not hungry anyway. The new medication messes with my appetite." Lena opened the refrigerator. Nearly empty. Some eggs, wilted lettuce, a container of leftovers from 3 days ago that probably needed to be thrown out. She'd meant to go shopping yesterday. Forgot. Add it to the list of things she'd failed to do. She made scrambled eggs, added cheese from a bag that was mostly crumbs. Brought the plate to her mother even though Margaret protested. "Eat," Lena said. "Please." Margaret took the plate. "You look upset." "I'm fine." "Lena." "I said I'm fine." They sat in silence. Margaret ate half the eggs, gave up, set the plate on the side table. Outside, snow had started to fall. Fat, wet flakes that stuck to the window and melted into rivulets. I got fired, Lena said finally. Her mother's face fell. Oh, honey, what happened? Lena told her. All of it. The man in torn clothes, Marcus's cruelty, the water, the collapse, the ambulance. Her voice stayed flat, factual, like she was reporting news from somewhere distant. When she finished, Margaret reached over and took her hand. You did the right thing. The right thing doesn't pay rent. I know. The right thing doesn't buy medication. I know, baby. Lena pulled her hand away, stood, walked to the window. The city sprawled below, millions of lights cutting through the snow. Somewhere out there, that man was in a hospital. Maybe dying, maybe already dead. She'd never know. Just another stranger whose life had intersected with hers for 12 minutes before spinning off in a direction she couldn't follow. I'll find something else, Lena said. I always do. You shouldn't have to keep starting over. Yeah, well. Lena pressed her forehead against the cold glass. World doesn't care what I should or shouldn't have to do. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Lena ignored it. Probably a spam call. Or worse, Marcus Chen calling to make sure she understood she was never to set foot in Aurelius again, to threaten legal action if she badmouthed the restaurant to anyone. The phone buzzed again, same number. Then a third time. Margaret looked at her. You should answer that. It's nothing. Lena. Lena sighed, pulled out her phone, answered without checking the caller ID. Hello? Miss Hart? Male voice. Older. Unfamiliar. My name is James Whitmore. I'm an attorney representing Damon Vale. Lena's heart stuttered. Did he? Mr. Vale is alive, critical but stable. He regained consciousness about an hour ago. Relief flooded through her so intensely it made her dizzy. Thank God. Miss Hart, I need to speak with you, in person, as soon as possible. Why? Mr. Vale remembered you, what you did for him. He's asked to see you. Lena sat down hard on the couch. I don't understand. Neither do I, frankly, but Mr. Vale was very insistent. I have a car waiting outside your building. If you're willing, I'd like to bring you to the hospital tonight. How did you get my address? Mr. Vale has resources, Miss Hart, and right now every single one of them is focused on finding the woman who tried to save his life while everyone else stood and watched. Through the window, Lena could see a black town car parked at the curb. Expensive, sleek, completely out of place in this neighborhood. Miss Hart? I'm here. This is a lot. I understand. Take your time. Lena looked at her mother. Margaret was watching her with an expression that mixed hope and fear in equal measure. If I come, Lena said slowly, am I in trouble? Legally, I mean. Marcus, the manager, he said I was trespassing after he fired me, that I had no right to touch that man. You're not in any trouble, Whitmore said. Quite the opposite, actually. But I'd prefer to explain in person. Will you come? Lena should say no. Should tell this lawyer that she was tired and confused and couldn't handle any more complications tonight. Instead, she heard herself say, give me 10 minutes to change. The town car smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Lena sat in the back seat, hands folded in her lap, watching Manhattan slide past the tinted windows. James Whitmore sat across from her, 60-something, silver hair, suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. He hadn't spoken since they'd left her building, just typed on his phone with the focused intensity of someone putting out fires. Can I ask you something? Lena said. Whitmore looked up. Of course. Who is Damon Vale? I mean, I know the name now. I looked him up while I was changing, but before tonight I'd never heard of him. Most people haven't. He prefers it that way. Whitmore set his phone down. Mr. Vale built Vale Industries from nothing. Started with a single patent for industrial filtration systems when he was 23. Now the company holds over 200 patents, employs 14,000 people across 6 countries, and generates annual revenue in excess of $3 billion. Lena tried to process that. Failed. And he was walking around Manhattan dressed like he was homeless? He does that sometimes. Says it helps him think, keeps him grounded. Whitmore's expression softened slightly. His wife died 5 years ago. Complications during childbirth. Since then, he's been raising their son alone while running the company. The pressure is immense. Sometimes he needs to disappear for a few hours. Be anonymous. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. Yes. It is. They drove in silence for another block. Lena watched a group of kids throwing snowballs at a bus stop, their laughter muffled by the car's thick windows. Normal life. The kind that continued regardless of who was dying in hospitals or getting fired from restaurants. "Miss Hart," Whitmore said, "I need to prepare you for what's going to happen when we arrive at the hospital." Okay. Mr. Vale suffered what doctors are calling a transient ischemic attack, a mini-stroke. He's stable now, but he was in critical condition for several hours. His family is with him. His parents, his late wife's parents, several board members from Vale Industries. These are powerful people who are very protective of Mr. Vale and very suspicious of outsiders. You think they're going to blame me? I think they're going to question why a waitress they've never heard of is being brought to see Mr. Vale in the middle of the night at his specific request. I need you to tell them exactly what happened. Don't embellish, don't minimize. Just the truth. Lena nodded. Her throat felt tight. The car pulled up to Columbia Presbyterian's main entrance. Whitmore led her through sliding glass doors, past a security desk where he flashed some kind of credentials that made the guard wave them through without question, and into an elevator that required a key card to access the top floor. VIP wing, Whitmore explained. Maximum privacy, minimum press access. The elevator doors opened onto a hallway that looked nothing like any hospital Lena had ever seen. Hardwood floors, actual artwork on the walls, lighting that came from lamps instead of fluorescent panels. A nurse's station occupied an alcove to the left, but otherwise the floor was empty and quiet. A woman stood outside one of the rooms. Late 50s, expensive suit, red-rimmed eyes that suggested recent crying. She looked up as they approached. "James?" she said. "Is this her?" "Elizabeth, this is Lena Hart. Miss Hart, this is Elizabeth Vale, Damon's mother." Elizabeth studied Lena with an intensity that made her want to shrink. Not hostile exactly, just assessing, taking in every detail, the cheap coat, the server's uniform still visible under it, the scuffed shoes, the absence of jewelry or makeup. "You're the one who helped my son." It wasn't a question, but Lena answered anyway. "I tried to. Marcus Chen says you assaulted him, that you became hysterical and attacked him when he attempted to escort a trespasser from the premises." Lena's stomach dropped. "That's not what happened. I didn't think it was." Elizabeth's expression didn't change. "Marcus Chen is a liar and a coward. I had James pull his phone records. He made 16 calls in the 40 minutes after the ambulance left. 13 were to his lawyer, 2 were to the restaurant's owner, and 1 was to a friend at the New York Post. Do you know what he told the Post? No. That he personally saved a billionaire's life. That he recognized Mr. Vale despite his disguise, immediately called for emergency services, and administered first aid while waiting for paramedics to arrive. He's currently being hailed as a hero. The restaurant's taking reservations 6 months out. People want to eat at the place where Marcus Chen saved Damon Vale. Rage flooded through Lena so suddenly it made her dizzy. "That's bullshit." "Yes," Elizabeth said, "it is. He filmed him. Your son was dying on the floor and Marcus stood there filming like it was entertainment." "I know. He fired me for trying to help, called me hysterical, said I attacked him." "I know that too." Elizabeth stepped closer. "Miss Hart, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Did you know who my son was when you helped him?" "No, I swear, I'd never heard his name before tonight." "Why did you help him then?" Lena opened her mouth, closed it. The question felt like a trap, though she couldn't figure out how. "Because he needed help," she said finally. "Because everyone else was just watching, because it was the right thing to do." "Even though it cost you your job?" "I didn't think about that in the moment. I saw him shaking, and I knew something was really wrong. The kind of wrong that kills people if nobody does anything." Elizabeth's eyes filled with tears. She didn't let them fall. "Thank you for seeing my son when everyone else just saw a problem to be removed." "Is he okay?" "Come see for yourself." Elizabeth pushed open the door to the hospital room. Lena followed her inside, acutely aware of Whitmore behind her, of the fact that she was stepping into a space where she absolutely did not belong. The room was large, more like a hotel suite than a hospital. A couch and chairs occupied one corner. A window looked out over the city. Medical equipment surrounded the bed, but it was all tucked discreetly behind decorative screens that almost made you forget this was a place where people fought to stay alive. Damon Vale lay in the bed, propped up at a 45-degree angle. An IV line ran into his left arm. Monitors tracked his heart rate, blood pressure, oxygen saturation. He looked different than he had at Aurelius, cleaner, obviously, but also more fragile. The tough guy disguise was gone, replaced by a hospital gown and the kind of pallor that came from nearly dying. He was awake. His eyes tracked to Lena as she entered. Recognition flared. "You," he said. His voice was rough, like he'd been screaming. "You're the one who gave me water." Lena nodded, couldn't speak. "What's your name?" "Lena. Lena Hart." "Lena." He repeated it like he was memorizing it. "They told me what you did, how you tried to help, how you got fired for it." "It's fine. I'll find another job." "It's not fine." Damon tried to sit up straighter, winced, gave up. "Nothing about tonight was fine. I'm sorry you got dragged into this." "You don't need to apologize. You didn't do anything wrong. I walked into that restaurant looking like a bum and collapsed on their floor. I'd say that's at least mildly wrong." Despite everything, Lena almost smiled. Maybe mildly. Two more people entered the room. A man and a woman, both in their 60s, both carrying themselves with the kind of rigid dignity that came from old money and older grief. The woman's eyes were swollen. The man's jaw was set so tight Lena could see the muscles jumping. "These are my late wife's parents," Damon said, "Catherine and Robert Shaw." Catherine looked at Lena with an expression that mixed gratitude and resentment in equal measure. "You're the waitress." "Yes, ma'am." "Marcus Chen says you stole Damon's wallet." The room went silent. Lena felt like she'd been punched. "What?" "He says that when you were helping Damon, you took his wallet from his coat pocket, that he saw you do it but was too focused on calling the ambulance to stop you in the moment." "That's a lie." Lena's voice came out sharp, louder than she intended. "I never touched his wallet. I gave him water. That's all." "Marcus has witnesses," Robert said. 3 customers who say they saw you rifling through Damon's pockets. They're lying, or he told them to lie. I don't know, but I didn't steal anything." Damon shifted in the bed. "Where's my wallet now?" Elizabeth pulled a clear plastic bag from a drawer in the bedside table. Inside was a leather wallet, worn at the edges. "The paramedics gave this to hospital security when they brought you in. It was in your coat pocket, right where you always keep it." Catherine's face flushed. "Then Marcus was mistaken." "Marcus was lying," Elizabeth corrected. "There's a difference." "We don't know that for certain." "Yes, Catherine, we do. Because Marcus Chen has spent the last 4 hours constructing a narrative where he's the hero, and this young woman is either a thief or a hysteric or both. He's poisoning the well, making sure that if anyone questions his version of events, they'll dismiss the alternative as coming from an unreliable source." "Why would he do that?" Lena asked. "The pieces weren't fitting together. If the wallet's still there, if I obviously didn't steal it, why keep lying?" Whitmore answered. "Because Mr. Chen is about to become very famous and very rich. He's already negotiating a book deal. 2 production companies have reached out about adapting his story for film. A motivational speaking agency wants to sign him. All of that falls apart if the truth comes out." "What truth?" "That he left a man to die on his restaurant floor while filming it for evidence. That he fired the only person who tried to help. That his first instinct wasn't to save a life, but to protect himself from liability." Lena sat down hard in one of the chairs. "This is insane." "This is Manhattan," Damon said quietly. "Image is everything. Truth is optional." His eyes met hers. There was something in his expression, a weariness that went deeper than physical exhaustion, like he'd spent his entire life watching people prioritize image over truth and had stopped being surprised by it. "I'm sorry," he said again. "You don't deserve this." "Neither do you." "I'm used to it. You're not." A doctor entered, young, female, with tired eyes and a stethoscope draped around her neck. She glanced at the crowd in the room and frowned. "Mr. Vale needs rest. I'm going to have to ask all of you to leave." Elizabeth moved to the door. Catherine and Robert followed. Whitmore gestured for Lena to come with them. "Wait," Damon said. "Lena stays." The doctor's frown deepened. "Mr. Vale." 5 minutes, please." The doctor sighed but nodded. 5 minutes. Then everyone out. They left. The door closed. Suddenly it was just Lena and Damon in the quiet room, monitors beeping softly, snow falling past the window. "I need to tell you something," Damon said, "but you can't tell anyone else. Not yet." "Okay." "I was wearing smart glasses tonight, custom made. They look like regular frames, but they record everything, video and audio." Lena's heart started pounding. "You recorded what happened at Aurelius?" "All of it, from the moment I walked in until the ambulance arrived. Everything Marcus did, everything you did, everything those bastards sitting at their tables did while they watched me die." "Do you still have it? The recording?" "The glasses are in my coat pocket, in a sealed evidence bag with hospital security. Nobody's touched them yet. Nobody knows what they are." "You need to release it. Show people what really happened." "I will, but not yet." Damon's hand found the call button on his bed. He held it, but didn't press. "Marcus deleted the restaurant's security footage. I had my people check. He scrubbed it completely about 30 minutes after the ambulance left. That tells me he knows he screwed up. He's scared. And scared people make mistakes." "What kind of mistakes?" "The kind that give me leverage." A knock on the door. The doctor stuck her head in. "Time's up, Mr. Vale." "One more minute." "I don't have one more minute. You had a stroke. You need rest, not visitors." Damon pressed the call button. A nurse appeared immediately. "Yes, Mr. Vale?" "I need you to retrieve my personal effects from security, specifically a pair of glasses in my coat pocket. Bring them to James Whitmore. Tell him to secure them in the firm's vault. Tonight." "Right away, sir." The nurse disappeared. The doctor stepped into the room, arms crossed. "Now you really need to leave, Miss Hart," Lena said. "I'm going." She stood, started toward the door. "Lena." She turned back. Damon looked at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Thank you for seeing me as human. Most people don't." "Most people are assholes." He laughed. It sounded rusty, like he didn't do it often. "Yeah, they really are." Lena left the room, found Elizabeth waiting in the hallway, phone pressed to her ear. She was speaking in rapid-fire French to someone, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. When she saw Lena, she ended the call. "James will drive you home," Elizabeth said. "I've arranged for a security detail to watch your building. Marcus Chen has friends in low places. I don't want him trying to intimidate you." "You think he would?" "I think powerful men who feel threatened are capable of anything. Better safe than sorry." A security detail. For her. Lena almost laughed at the absurdity. "I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything. You helped my son when no one else would. This family doesn't forget things like that." Whitmore appeared, holding his phone. "The glasses are secured. I've already sent a copy of the footage to our digital forensics team. They'll have a preliminary analysis by morning." "Good," Elizabeth said. "Now take Miss Hart home. It's late, and she's been through enough for one night." The drive back was quiet. Lena stared out the window, watching the city blur past. Her mind couldn't settle on any one thought. Everything felt slippery, surreal. 12 hours ago, she'd been a waitress, worried about making rent. Now she was caught in the middle of something that involved billionaires and lawyers and security footage that could destroy a man's carefully constructed lie. "Miss Hart," Whitmore said, "I need you to understand something." "What?" "The next few days are going to be difficult. Marcus Chen has already planted his version of events in the press. By tomorrow morning, you'll be the villain in his story. The unstable waitress who attacked a manager and tried to steal from a dying man. There will be articles, social media posts. People who've never met you will form opinions about your character based on lies. Can't we just release the footage, show people the truth?" "We will. But not yet. Right now, Marcus thinks he's won. He thinks the evidence is destroyed. His story is airtight, and you're just a discredited former employee with no credibility. Let him think that. Let him get comfortable. The higher his profile climbs, the harder he'll fall when we pull the rug out." "That's cruel. That's strategic. There's a difference." Lena thought about it. About Marcus standing in that restaurant, filming Damon's seizure like it was content for his highlight reel. About the lies he'd already told. About the book deals and movie rights and motivational speaking circuits. "How long?" she asked. "A week? Maybe 2? Long enough for him to commit fully to his narrative. Long enough for him to make statements he can't walk back. And I'm supposed to just sit at home while he calls me a thief? You're supposed to let us handle this. Mr. Vale wants to make sure justice is served properly. That means building an airtight case before we go public. The car stopped outside Lena's building. Whitmore handed her a business card. Call me if anyone contacts you. Press, lawyers, Marcus himself. Don't engage. Just forward everything to me. Okay. And Miss Hart? One more thing. Yeah? You did good tonight. Not many people would have done what you did. Remember that when things get ugly. Because they will get ugly. Lena climbed out of the car, watched it drive away. Then she stood on the sidewalk for a long moment, letting snow collect in her hair, feeling the weight of what she'd stepped into settle over her shoulders like a coat she couldn't take off. Her phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize. You looked good on camera tonight. Be a shame if something happened to that pretty face. Her hands started shaking. She looked around. The street was empty except for a homeless man sleeping in a doorway 3 buildings down. No one watching. No obvious threat. Another text. Stay quiet. Mind your business. Or things get worse for you and Mommy. Lena's breath came in short gasps. She called Whitmore. He answered on the first ring. Someone's threatening me, she said. Text messages. About my mom. Block the number. Don't respond. I'm sending security to your building right now. They'll be there in 3 minutes. This is really happening. Yes, Miss Hart, it is. I should have just kept my head down. Should have let Marcus throw him out. None of this would be happening if you just what? Let a man die to protect yourself? That's not who you are. Maybe it should be. Maybe. But it's not. And that matters. Whitmore's voice gentled. Get inside. Lock your door. Security will knock 3 times, identify themselves, and show you their credentials before you let them in. Understood? Understood. Lena ended the call, climbed the stairs to her apartment. Her hand shook so badly she could barely get the key in the lock. Inside, her mother was asleep in the recliner, the Afghan pulled up to her chin. The TV played a late-night talk show on mute. Everything looked normal, peaceful. Lena locked the door, engaged the deadbolt, checked the windows even though they were 4 stories up. 3 sharp knocks. She jumped, pressed her eye to the peephole. 2 men in dark suits stood in the hallway. One held up a badge. Miss Hart, private security. James Whitmore sent us. Lena opened the door a crack, keeping the chain engaged. Let me see your credentials. They showed her ID cards, business licenses, concealed carry permits. Everything looked legitimate. She let them in. We'll be posted outside your door, the taller one said. 12-hour shifts. You go anywhere, we go with you. Someone approaches you, we intervene. Simple as that. Someone already threatened me. Text messages. We know, Mr. Whitmore briefed us. We've got your phone number flagged. Any threatening messages, we get notified immediately. We're also monitoring the building's entrances and the street outside. This is insane. This is Manhattan, ma'am. Lots of money at stake. People get crazy when money's involved. They left, took up positions outside her door. Lena locked it behind them and leaned against the wall, heart pounding. Her mother stirred in the recliner. Lena, what's going on? Nothing, Mom. Go back to sleep. I heard voices. Just some guys from the building, checking on a noise complaint. Margaret's eyes sharpened despite the medication fog. You're lying. Yeah, I am. Are you in trouble? Lena thought about how to answer that, decided on the truth. I don't know yet. Maybe, probably, but I'm handling it. Lena, Mom, please, I'll explain everything tomorrow. Right now, I just need you to rest, okay? Margaret studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, but tomorrow you tell me everything. Tomorrow, Lena agreed. I promise. She helped her mother to bed, tucked the Afghan around her, kissed her forehead. Then she went to her own room, closed the door, and sat on the edge of her bed in the dark. Her phone buzzed again. Another text. This time from a number with a 212 area code. Lena Hart? This is Jennifer Wallace from the New York Post. I'm writing a story about the incident at Aurelius tonight, and I'd love to get your side of what happened. Can we talk? Lena deleted it without responding. Another buzz. Hi, Lena. This is Brad Chen from TMZ. We're hearing you were involved in the Damon Vale situation. We pay well for exclusive interviews. Interested? Delete. Another. Miss Hart, this is Detective Maria Santos with NYPD. We've received a complaint about an alleged assault at Aurelius Restaurant. We need to speak with you regarding your involvement. Please call this number at your earliest convenience. Lena's stomach lurched. She forwarded the message to Whitmore. He responded immediately. Not a real cop. Confirmed with NYPD. Block and ignore. The messages kept coming. Reporters, bloggers, people claiming to be lawyers, people claiming to be friends of friends who just wanted to make sure she was okay. All of them wanting something. Information. A quote. Her version of events that they could twist into whatever narrative served their purposes. Lena turned off her phone, sat in the silence. Outside, snow continued to fall. The city hummed its endless song, sirens, traffic, the rumble of trains beneath the streets, life continuing like nothing had changed, except everything had changed. She'd helped a dying man, and somehow that had made her a target, had put her mother at risk, had dragged her into a world where billionaires and their lawyers and their enemies played games with people's lives and reputations. Lena lay back on her bed, still fully dressed, and stared at the ceiling. Sleep felt impossible. Her mind kept replaying the night, Damon's trembling hands, Marcus's cold eyes, the sound Damon's head had made when it hit the floor, the silence from all those people sitting at their tables, watching, doing nothing. She thought about the smart glasses, about what they'd recorded, about the fact that somewhere in a lawyer's vault sat proof that could destroy Marcus Chen's entire fabricated narrative. A week, Whitmore had said. Maybe 2. Let Marcus climb higher. Let him commit to his lies so completely that when the truth came out, the fall would be catastrophic, strategic, not cruel. Lena wanted to believe that, wanted to trust that there was a plan, that justice would be served, that the truth mattered more than the lie. But she'd spent 30 years learning that truth was fragile and lies were cheap, and people believed whatever made them comfortable. Her phone buzzed again. She'd forgotten to turn it completely off. One last message from an unknown number. The manager told us what you did, how you tried to steal from a dying man. You're pathetic. You should be ashamed. Lena threw her phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor. The screen didn't crack. Of course it didn't. Nothing was that easy. She pulled a pillow over her face and screamed into it. Not loud, just enough to release the pressure building in her chest. The rage and fear and frustration of a day that had started with her serving overpriced pasta to people who didn't see her as human and had ended with her caught in something she didn't understand and couldn't escape. Tomorrow she'd figure it out. Tomorrow she'd be strong. Tonight, she just wanted to disappear. Hours passed. Lena didn't sleep, just lay there, listening to her mother's labored breathing from the next room, listening to the security guards murmur outside her door, listening to her own heartbeat thunder in her ears. Somewhere across the city, Damon Vale was lying in a hospital bed, recovering from a stroke that should have killed him. Somewhere else, Marcus Chen was probably sleeping peacefully, dreaming of book deals and fame, and a future built on a lie he'd told so well even he might believe it by morning. And Lena was here, unemployed, threatened, trapped in a story that wasn't hers but would define her anyway. The snow kept falling. The city kept humming, and Lena kept breathing, because what else could she do? Dawn came gray and cold. Lena finally gave up on sleep and went to the kitchen, made coffee, burned toast because she wasn't paying attention, sat at the tiny table and stared at nothing while steam rose from her cup. Her mother shuffled in at 7. You look terrible. Thanks, Mom. I'm serious. Did you sleep at all? Not really. Margaret poured herself coffee, sat across from Lena. Talk to me. So Lena did. She told her everything. The hospital, the lawyer, the smart glasses, the threatening texts, the security guards. All of it. Her mother listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from concern to anger to something that looked almost like pride. When Lena finished, Margaret reached across the table and took her hand. You did the right thing. The right thing is trying to get me killed. The right thing often does. Doesn't make it less right. Very philosophical, Mom. I'm old and dying. I'm allowed to be philosophical. Margaret squeezed her hand. These people, this billionaire and his lawyers, they're going to protect you. They say they will. Do you believe them? Lena thought about it. About Elizabeth Vale's fierce protectiveness. About Whitmore's careful strategy. About Damon looking at her like she was the first person in years who'd seen him as something other than a problem or an opportunity. Yeah, she said finally. I think I do. Then trust them. And in the meantime, we do what we always do. We survive. A knock on the door. Lena tensed, looked through the peephole. One of the security guards stood there holding a manila envelope. She opened the door. What's that? Delivery from Mr. Whitmore's office. He asked me to give it to you personally. Lena took the envelope, thanked him, closed the door. Inside was a letter on heavy cardstock, the kind that cost more per sheet than her entire notebook budget for a year. The message was typed in formal business language. Miss Hart, enclosed, please find a check for $10,000. This represents compensation for lost wages during the period you are unable to seek employment due to circumstances arising from the incident at Aurelius. Additional compensation will be provided as needed. Please do not hesitate to contact our office if you have any concerns. Sincerely, James Whitmore, Esquire, on behalf of Damon Vale. Beneath the letter was a check. $10,000. Made out to Lena Hart, signed by someone whose signature was an illegible scrawl. Lena stared at it. Her hands started shaking again. What is it? Margaret asked. Lena showed her the check. Her mother's eyes went wide. That's 6 months of your rent. That's 3 mortgage payments on the hospital bills. Lena, you can't accept this. Why not? Because it's too much. Because you don't even know these people. Because money like this always comes with strings. The string is that I tell the truth when they need me to. That's it. That's all they want. Margaret looked uncertain. You're sure? I'm sure. Lena took the check to the bank the moment it opened, deposited it, watched the numbers change on her account balance like witnessing a miracle. Then she paid 3 months of medical bills online, bought groceries, real groceries, not the cheapest options, but the things her mother actually liked, vegetables that hadn't been frozen, meat that hadn't been marked down for quick sale. When she got back to the apartment, the security guard handed her another envelope. This one contained a phone. New, expensive, with a note. Your personal line has been compromised. Use this number for all communications. Already programmed with relevant contacts. JW. Lena turned on the phone. The contacts list had exactly 4 entries. James Whitmore, Elizabeth Vale, Hospital Security, 911. She sat on the couch, tried to make sense of how quickly her life had transformed. Yesterday, she was invisible. Today, she had bodyguards and lawyers and $10,000 in the bank. Tomorrow, the world would know her name, and it would hate her for it. The article hit the internet at 6:42 a.m. on Tuesday morning. Lena knew the exact time because her new phone buzzed with a notification from Whitmore. It started, "Don't read the comments. I mean it." She read the comments anyway. The New York Post had run with Marcus Chen's story under a headline that screamed across her screen, "Restaurant hero saves billionaire's life while deranged waitress attempts theft." The article painted Marcus as a vigilant manager who'd recognized Damon Vale despite his disguise, immediately sprung into action, and personally administered CPR until paramedics arrived. Lena was described as a troubled employee with a history of erratic behavior who allegedly attempted to steal Mr. Vale's wallet during the medical emergency before being restrained by Chen. The photo they'd used of Marcus showed him in his best suit, looking concerned and compassionate. The photo of Lena was a screenshot from her social media, 2 years old, taken at a bar, slightly drunk, laughing at something off camera. They'd cropped out her friends, leaving just her mid-laugh expression that could easily be read as unhinged. The comments were worse than the article. Of course she tried to steal from him. These people have no shame. Marcus Chen is a real hero. We need more people like him. She looks crazy. You can see it in her eyes. I hope they press charges. Theft from a dying man. That's sociopath behavior. Lena set the phone down. Her hands weren't shaking this time. She felt numb instead, like her body had reached its limit for emotional response and just shut down the whole system. Her mother came into the living room already dressed. You read it. James told me not to. Since when do you listen to lawyers? Since never, apparently. Lena picked up the phone again, scrolled through more comments. Each one felt like a small cut, individually insignificant, collectively devastating. Margaret sat beside her, took the phone gently from her hands. Stop. You're just hurting yourself. People think I'm a thief. People are idiots. My name is out there now. Everyone I've ever worked with, everyone I went to school with, everyone who's ever known me is seeing this. They're reading that I tried to steal from a dying man. The people who actually know you won't believe it. What about the people who don't? What about future employers? You think anyone's going to hire me after this? Margaret didn't answer. They both knew the truth. Lena's name was poisoned now. A Google search would bring up that article forever. Every job application, every background check, every first date who decided to look her up online, they'd all see it. The lie would follow her everywhere. The new phone buzzed, Whitmore calling. I read it, Lena said instead of hello. I told you not to. You also told me people would hate me. Congratulations on being right. Miss Hart, I know this is difficult. Difficult? Lena's voice rose. My entire reputation just got destroyed in 600 words. Difficult doesn't begin to cover it. Which is why we need you to stay calm. Don't respond. Don't defend yourself. Let Marcus think he's won. He has won. Look at the comments. Look at what people are saying about me. I've seen them. They don't matter. They matter to me. Whitmore's voice softened slightly. I understand, but you need to trust the process. Marcus is digging himself deeper with every interview he gives. Yesterday he told CNN he performed chest compressions for 12 minutes. Today he told the Post it was 15. Tomorrow it'll be 20. Liars always embellish. They can't help themselves. Every exaggeration is another contradiction we can use against him. And meanwhile, I'm supposed to just sit here while the entire internet calls me a thief and a psychopath? Yes, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Lena wanted to scream. Instead, she said, How much longer? Mr. Vale is being released from the hospital tomorrow. He wants to review the footage personally before we proceed. Once he's had a chance to see everything, we'll determine our strategy. Strategy? Right, because this is all just a game to you people. Miss Hart, I have to go. Lena ended the call. Threw the phone onto the couch cushion. It bounced once and landed face down. That was rude, Margaret said. I don't care. Yes, you do. You care too much. That's always been your problem. Lena looked at her mother. What's that supposed to mean? It means you take everything personally. You always have. Some kid made fun of your shoes in 3rd grade. You cried for a week. Your manager at the diner said you were slow. You quit the next day. You can't let things roll off you. You absorb every hit like it's proof of something terrible about yourself. Maybe because it is proof. Or maybe because you're human, and humans have feelings, and that's not actually a character flaw. Margaret stood, wincing slightly. The medication made her joints ache. Those people online don't know you. Their opinions are based on a lie written by a man who's trying to save his own ass. Why do you care what they think? Because their opinions have consequences. Because when I try to get another job, those articles will come up. Because reputation matters even when it's built on lies. Then let the lawyer fix it. That's what he's being paid to do. He's not being paid. Damon Vale is paying him. I'm just the collateral damage. Margaret's expression hardened. Stop it. Stop acting like you're nothing. You saved that man's life. You stood up when everyone else sat down. That matters more than any article. Does it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like doing the right thing just ruined my life. For now, not forever. You don't know that. Neither do you. So maybe wait and see before you decide your entire future is destroyed. The security guard knocked on the door. Different one from yesterday, shorter, stockier, with a scar across his left eyebrow. Miss Hart, you have a visitor downstairs, says his name is Daniel Park, claims he's your cousin. Lena frowned. I don't have a cousin named Daniel Park. That's what I figured. You want me to send him away? Did he say what he wanted? Just that it was important he speak with you. Personal matter. Tell him to leave his number. If it's actually important, he can call. The guard nodded and left. Margaret raised her eyebrows. When did you get so paranoid? Since people started threatening me via text message. Fair point. The guard returned 5 minutes later. He wouldn't leave a number. Said to tell you he's a friend of Marcus Chen's and thought you should know some things before they get worse. Lena's stomach tightened. Marcus sent someone to intimidate me? Doesn't seem like intimidation. Guy looks nervous, like he's scared to be here but came anyway. Where is he now? Lobby. I told him to wait. Lena looked at her mother. Margaret shrugged. Your call, but if you go down there, the guard goes with you. Obviously, they took the elevator down. The guard positioned himself between Lena and the lobby, hand resting casually near his waist, where Lena assumed he carried a weapon. The lobby was empty except for a young Asian man sitting on the broken couch near the mailboxes. Mid-20s, wearing jeans and a Columbia University sweatshirt, holding a backpack on his lap like it might run away if he let go. He stood when he saw Lena. Miss Hart, I'm Daniel. I worked at Aurelius. I was there Saturday night. What do you want? To apologize, and to tell you the truth about what happened. The guard stepped forward. If this is some kind of setup, it's not. I swear. I can't keep quiet about this anymore. It's wrong. What Marcus is doing is wrong. Lena studied him. He looked genuinely distressed. Dark circles under his eyes, hands trembling slightly. The body language of someone who hadn't slept in days. Why should I believe you? Because I was there. I saw everything. I saw you try to help that man while everyone else just watched. I saw Marcus film him instead of calling 911 right away. I saw him delete the footage later. And now he's telling everyone he's a hero and you're a thief, and I just can't pretend anymore. Marcus said he has witnesses, people who saw me steal the wallet. He paid them. 3 customers. Offered them $500 each to sign statements saying they saw you go through the guy's pockets. They took the money. I heard him making the calls. Lena felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. You heard him? Yes. I was in the back, cleaning up after closing. Marcus thought everyone had left. He was in his office on speakerphone, telling these people exactly what to say. Word for word, like he was reading from a script. Did you record it? No, I didn't think... at the time I didn't realize what I was hearing. It only clicked later when I saw the article. The guard spoke up. This conversation needs to happen somewhere more private, not in a lobby where anyone can walk in. Lena nodded. They went back upstairs. Margaret made coffee while Daniel sat at the kitchen table, backpack still clutched to his chest like a shield. Why are you telling me this? Lena asked. You worked for Marcus. You could lose your job. I already lost it. He fired me yesterday. Why? Because I asked too many questions. I saw him acting weird after the ambulance left, nervous, sweating. He kept going to his office and making phone calls. I asked if everything was okay, and he told me to mind my own business. Next morning, I show up for my shift, and he tells me I'm done. No notice, no severance, just done. That's illegal. So is bribing witnesses. But here we are. Daniel finally set the backpack down. I've been working at Aurelius for 3 years, saving money for grad school. I need that job, needed it. But I can't watch someone destroy an innocent person to cover his own ass. That's not who I am. Margaret set a mug of coffee in front of him. You're a good kid. I'm an unemployed kid with $30,000 in student loans and no references because my former boss is going to trash me to anyone who calls. Daniel wrapped his hands around the mug. But yeah, I guess I'm trying to be good. Lena pulled out her phone. I need to call someone, a lawyer. He needs to hear this. Will he believe me? I don't know. But we're going to find out. She called Whitmore. He answered immediately. Miss Hart, are you all right? I'm fine, but I have someone here you need to talk to. His name is Daniel Park. He worked at Aurelius. He has information about Marcus Chen bribing witnesses. A pause. Then, put him on speaker. Lena did. Daniel repeated his story, going into more detail this time. The timeline, the names of the customers Marcus had called, the exact amount he'd offered them. Whitmore listened without interrupting, asking clarifying questions only when Daniel's narrative got confused. When Daniel finished, Whitmore said, Mr. Park, would you be willing to sign an affidavit stating everything you just told me? Yes. And you understand that doing so could result in retaliation from Mr. Chen, that he might sue you for defamation or attempt to damage your reputation? I understand. I don't care. This is wrong. Someone needs to say it. Good. I'm sending a car to Miss Hart's location. It'll be there in 20 minutes. I need you to come to my office so we can document your statement properly. Okay. One more thing, Mr. Park. Have you told anyone else about this? Family? Friends? Anyone? No, just Miss Hart. Keep it that way. Don't post on social media. Don't talk to the press. Don't even tell your roommate. Understood? Understood. Whitmore ended the call. Daniel looked at Lena. Is this really happening? Yeah, I think it is. I thought about just keeping quiet, pretending I didn't know anything. It would have been easier. Usually is. But I kept seeing your picture in the articles, the comments people were making, and I thought about how scared you must be, how alone you must feel. I couldn't let that continue, not when I knew the truth. Lena felt tears prickling at her eyes. She blinked them back. Thank you. You didn't have to do this. Neither did you. You didn't have to help that guy, but you did anyway. That matters. The car arrived 18 minutes later. Daniel left with promises to call after he'd given his statement. The security guard resumed his position outside the door. Margaret went to lie down. The morning had exhausted her. Lena sat alone in the quiet apartment, processing what had just happened. A witness. Actual proof that Marcus had fabricated evidence. This changed everything. Her phone buzzed. A text from Whitmore. Mr. Park's statement corroborates everything you've said. We're moving up the timeline. Mr. Vale wants to meet with you tomorrow. Hospital room 12B, 2 p.m. Don't be late. Lena typed back. I'll be there. She spent the rest of the day trying not to think about what tomorrow would bring. Tried to read, couldn't focus. Tried to watch TV. Nothing held her attention. Finally, she just paced the apartment, wearing a path in the cheap carpet, while her mind spun through possibilities. What did Damon want? Was he angry she'd dragged his name through this mess? Did he blame her for the publicity? Maybe the lawyers had convinced him she was a liability. Maybe tomorrow's meeting was just a formality before they cut her loose and handled things themselves. By the time she went to bed, Lena had convinced herself she was about to be abandoned by the only people who could actually help her. She lay awake until 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, listening to the city breathe beyond her window. Morning came too fast and too slow. Lena showered, changed 3 times before settling on simple black pants and a gray sweater, and arrived at the hospital at 1:45 p.m. The security guard, a new one, 3rd shift rotation, came with her. Whitmore met them in the lobby. Miss Hart, right on time. Is he okay? Damon, is he doing better? Much better. Doctors are amazed at his recovery. They're releasing him this afternoon. Whitmore gestured toward the elevators. He's anxious to speak with you. They rode up in silence. The VIP floor was busy today, nurses moving between rooms, a doctor reviewing charts at the station, someone's family clustered in a waiting area speaking in hushed tones. Room 12B was at the end of the hall. Whitmore knocked twice and opened the door without waiting for a response. Damon sat in a chair by the window, dressed in actual clothes instead of a hospital gown. Dark jeans, a simple black sweater, reading glasses perched on his nose. He looked better than he had 2 nights ago. Color in his face, clarity in his eyes, like he'd come back from somewhere very far away and was still adjusting to being present. He stood when Lena entered. Lena, thank you for coming. Of course. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck, but alive, which is better than the alternative. He gestured to the other chair. Please sit. Lena sat. Whitmore positioned himself near the door. Damon reclaimed his seat and studied her for a long moment. I watched the footage, he said finally. From my glasses. Every second of what happened at Aurelius. Lena's throat tightened. And you saved my life. Literally. If you hadn't intervened, if you'd let Marcus throw me out, I would have collapsed on the street and died before anyone found me. The doctors confirmed it. Another 3 minutes without medical attention, and I wouldn't be here. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. Because thanking you is the bare minimum. What you did, standing up to your boss, risking your job, protecting a complete stranger. Most people wouldn't do that. Most people would have looked away. You didn't. I'm not special. I just did what anyone should do. Except everyone else in that restaurant proves that's not true. They watched. They laughed. They toasted to me knowing my place. You were the only one who saw me as human. Lena didn't know what to say to that. She looked down at her hands, folded in her lap. I also saw what Marcus did, Damon continued. How he filmed me. How he hesitated before calling 911. How he fired you for trying to help. And then I read what he's been telling the press. The lies he's built about himself, about you. The witnesses he's paid to corroborate his story. Daniel told you about that? James did. Daniel's statement is very detailed, very damning. Damon leaned forward. Lena, I want to destroy Marcus Chen. Professionally, legally, financially. I want to make sure he never works in this city again, never profits from his lies, never gets away with what he did. But I can't do that without your permission. My permission. Going public with the footage means going public with you. Your face, your voice, your story. The press will descend on you. The scrutiny will be intense. Your life will become a circus for a while. I won't subject you to that without your explicit consent. Lena thought about the articles already written, the comments already posted, the hatred already directed at her based on Marcus's lies. What happens if I say no? Then we handle this quietly. My lawyers will threaten Marcus with the footage privately. He'll retract his statements, issue a public apology, and resign from Aurelius. You'll be cleared, but without the spectacle. And if I say yes, then we do this publicly. We release the footage. We show the world exactly what happened. Marcus gets humiliated on a national scale. He loses everything. But so do you in a way. Your privacy, your anonymity, the ability to walk down the street without being recognized. I don't have anonymity anymore anyway. My name's already out there. As a villain, this would transform you into a hero. Different problem, same loss of privacy. Lena looked out the window. Snow had started falling again. Soft, almost gentle. The city looked beautiful under its white blanket, all the dirt and grime temporarily hidden. Can I ask you something? She said. Anything. Why do you care what I want? You have the footage. You could release it whether I agree or not. Because you're not collateral damage. You're a person who got dragged into this mess because you did the right thing. That means you get a say in how we proceed. This is your life too. Daniel doesn't get a choice. You're using his statement. Daniel came to us voluntarily. You didn't ask for any of this. Lena turned back to him. If we go public, really public, do I have your word that you'll protect me? That your lawyers won't disappear the second things get complicated? You have my word. And more than that, you have a contract. Damon pulled a folder from the table beside him. James drew this up this morning. It guarantees continued legal representation, financial support, and security for you and your mother for a minimum of 2 years, regardless of how the case proceeds. It also includes a clause that compensates you for any loss of income or damage to your reputation. He handed her the folder. Lena opened it. The contract was 30 pages long, dense with legal language she barely understood, but the numbers at the bottom were clear enough. $250,000, paid in installments over 24 months. This is too much, Lena said. It's not enough, but it's what my lawyers calculated as fair compensation for what you've already lost and what you'll continue to lose. I didn't help you for money. I know. That's exactly why you deserve it. Lena stared at the contract. $250,000. More money than she'd make in 5 years of waiting tables. Enough to pay off her mother's medical bills. Enough to buy time to figure out what came next. But taking it meant accepting everything that came with it. The exposure. The judgment. The transformation from Lena Hart, invisible waitress, to Lena Hart, public figure. What would you do? She asked. If you were me, Damon considered the question. I'd be terrified. And then I'd do it anyway, because men like Marcus Chen count on people being too scared to fight back. They weaponize that fear, use it to get away with things that should end their careers. Someone needs to call them out. Might as well be us. Us. If you agree. If not, I'll respect your decision and we'll handle this quietly. Lena closed the folder, took a breath. Okay. Okay, you need time to think, or okay, you're in. Okay, I'm in. Release the footage. Show people what really happened. Make Marcus face the truth. Damon smiled. It transformed his entire face, made him look younger, less burdened. Thank you. When are you doing it? Tonight. We're holding a press conference at 6 p.m. I'll make a statement, show the footage, and introduce you as the woman who saved my life. Tonight? That's in 4 hours. Is that a problem? I'm wearing a sweater with a hole in the elbow. So change. James will have someone bring you options, whatever you need. A knock on the door. Elizabeth Vale entered, followed by a woman Lena didn't recognize. Tall, black, impeccably dressed, carrying a garment bag and a makeup case. This is Simone, Elizabeth said. She's going to make sure you look camera ready. Come with me, dear. We have work to do. Lena looked at Damon. He nodded encouragingly. It's happening, Lena. Ready or not. She followed Elizabeth and Simone to a private waiting room that had been converted into a makeshift dressing area. Simone unzipped the garment bag, revealing 3 outfit options. All simple, all expensive, all in sizes that somehow fit Lena perfectly. How did you know my measurements? Lena asked. I'm very good at my job, Simone said. Now sit. We have 90 minutes to make you look like someone the cameras will love. The next hour and a half passed in a blur. Simone did Lena's makeup. Not heavy, just enough to look polished under harsh lighting. Someone else styled her hair. Someone else helped her into a navy blue dress that fit like it had been made for her. When Lena looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked professional, put together, like someone whose opinion mattered. Perfect, Elizabeth said. Now, let's go over what you're going to say. I don't have to give a speech, do I? No, Damon will handle most of the talking, but reporters will ask you questions. You need to be prepared. They practiced answers. How did you know something was wrong? What went through your mind when the manager fired you? How do you feel about Marcus Chen now? Lena stumbled through responses that Elizabeth patiently corrected until they sounded natural instead of rehearsed. At 5:30 p.m., Whitmore appeared. It's time. They took a service elevator down to a conference room on the 2nd floor. The space was packed. Reporters crammed into every available seat. Cameras lined the back wall. The air buzzed with anticipation. Damon stood at a podium at the front of the room, flanked by his lawyers. He looked calm, completely in control, like he'd done this 1,000 times. When Lena entered, every camera swung toward her. Flashes went off like small explosions. Questions erupted from the crowd. Miss Hart, is it true you stole from Mr. Vale? How do you respond to accusations of assault? Did you know who Damon Vale was when you helped him? Elizabeth's hand landed on Lena's shoulder. Ignore them. Eyes forward, don't react. They made their way to the front. Lena sat in a chair beside the podium, tried to breathe, tried not to look at the cameras. Damon cleared his throat. The room quieted immediately. Good evening. Thank you all for coming on short notice. My name is Damon Vale, and I'm here to set the record straight about what happened Saturday night at Aurelius Restaurant. He paused. Let the weight of that statement settle. Over the past 48 hours, you've heard a version of events from Marcus Chen, the general manager of Aurelius. According to Mr. Chen, he heroically recognized me despite my disguise, immediately called for emergency medical services, and personally saved my life through quick thinking and decisive action. He's been praised as a hero, offered book deals, invited onto talk shows. His version of events has been accepted as truth. Another pause. His version is a lie. The room erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Damon waited for silence. I was wearing custom smart glasses that night. They recorded everything from the moment I entered Aurelius until the ambulance arrived. I'm going to show you that footage now. I warn you, it's disturbing. You'll see me suffer a medical emergency. You'll see me collapse. You'll see the absolute worst of humanity on display, but you'll also see the absolute best. You'll see what one person can do when they choose courage over comfort. He gestured to someone in the back. The lights dimmed. A screen descended behind the podium. The footage began to play. Lena watched herself on screen, saw the moment she'd first noticed Damon shaking, saw herself approach Marcus, argue with him, defy him, saw herself bring Damon water with shaking hands, saw the kindness in her own expression, a kindness she hadn't realized she possessed. Then the collapse, the seizure. Marcus standing there filming while Lena dropped to her knees and begged for help. The room was silent except for the audio from the footage. Lena's voice, desperate and young. Call 911 right now. Call 911. Marcus's voice, cold and calculating. Evidence, in case his family tries to sue. When the footage ended, nobody moved. The silence stretched, thick and heavy. Damon let it sit for a moment. Then he said, "The woman beside me is Lena Hart. She's not a thief. She's not hysterical. She's not any of the things Marcus Chen has called her. She's the only person in that restaurant who saw me as human, who risked her job to help a stranger, who stayed with me when everyone else turned away. He looked directly at the cameras. Marcus Chen is a liar. He fabricated his entire story. He bribed witnesses. He destroyed evidence. And he did it all to build a reputation on the suffering of others. That ends today. The room exploded. Every reporter shouting at once, cameras flashing. The noise was overwhelming. Damon raised his hand. I'll take a few questions, but I want to be clear. Miss Hart is not on trial here. Be respectful or you're done. A reporter stood. Mr. Vale, are you pressing charges against Mr. Chen? Yes. For evidence tampering, witness bribery, and fraud. My legal team is coordinating with the district attorney's office. Another reporter. Miss Hart, how does it feel to have your name cleared? Lena leaned toward the microphone. Her voice came out steadier than she expected. It feels like the truth finally matters more than the lie. That's all I ever wanted. Do you blame Mr. Chen for what he's put you through? I blame him for what he did. For filming a dying man. For firing me when I tried to help. For lying about all of it to make himself look good. Yeah, I blame him for that. What do you want people to take away from this? Lena thought about it. About everything that had happened. About the choice she'd made in that moment to give Damon water instead of walking away. I want people to remember that doing the right thing isn't always easy. Sometimes it costs you, but the alternative, looking away, staying silent, letting injustice happen because it's safer, that costs even more. Just in ways we don't always see. The press conference continued for another 30 minutes. More questions, more answers. Damon handled most of it, but Lena spoke when asked, and each time her voice got stronger. When it was over, Elizabeth ushered her out through a side door. You did beautifully. I feel like I'm going to throw up. That's normal. The first press conference is always the hardest. There are going to be more? Probably, but you don't have to do any you don't want to. This was the important one. The one that shifts the narrative. They returned to the hospital room. Damon was already there, tie loosened, looking exhausted but satisfied. Well, that happened. That happened, Lena agreed. She sat down hard in the chair by the window. What now? Now we wait for the fallout. Marcus will try to defend himself, might claim the footage is edited or taken out of context. Won't matter. The truth is out there. People will make up their own minds. Lena's new phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. Whitmore had sent her a link to Twitter. The press conference footage was already trending. Millions of views in less than an hour. The comments were overwhelming. Oh my God! Marcus Chen is a monster. Lena Hart is a hero. This is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. How did that manager think he'd get away with this? Everyone who sat there watching should be ashamed. Every single one of them. Lena scrolled through them, tears streaming down her face. Not sad tears. Something else. Relief, maybe. Or vindication. Or just the release of pressure that had been building for days. People believe us, she whispered. Of course they do, Damon said, because it's the truth, and the truth tends to win eventually. Just takes longer than it should sometimes. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Miss Hart? Male voice. Nervous? Familiar? Who is this? My name is Peter Caldwell. I was eating at Aurelius Saturday night, table 14. I watched everything happen, and I didn't help. I just sat there with my wife and watched you try to save that man while I did nothing. Lena didn't know what to say. I saw the press conference, Peter continued. I saw the footage, and I need you to know that I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have helped. I should have done something, anything, and I didn't. I'll have to live with that for the rest of my life. Why are you calling me? Because I needed you to hear it from someone who was there, that what you did mattered, that you were right and we were all wrong, and that I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be more like you and less like the coward I was that night. The line went dead. Lena set the phone down, looked at Damon. Someone just apologized to me, one of the customers from that night. Good. He should apologize. They all should. Do you think they will? Some of them. The ones with consciences. The rest will pretend they don't remember or weren't really paying attention. People are good at rewriting their own histories when the truth makes them uncomfortable. Elizabeth poked her head in. Damon, the car's ready. We should get you home before the press realizes you've been discharged. Damon stood, looked at Lena. Come with us. Meet my son. Have dinner with our family. You're part of this story now. Might as well be part of what comes after. Lena hesitated, then nodded. Okay, yeah, I'd like that. They left through a service exit, avoiding the reporters who'd gathered at the main entrance. The car was warm and quiet. Lena sat between Elizabeth and Damon, watching the city slide past the windows. Somewhere out there, Marcus Chen was watching that footage, watching his lies unravel in real time, watching his future disappear. And Lena couldn't bring herself to feel sorry for him, not even a little bit. Damon's townhouse occupied a quiet street in the Upper East Side, the kind of neighborhood where doormen knew your name and trash cans never sat on the curb past collection time. The building was understated: brownstone facade, black iron railings, window boxes that would bloom with flowers come spring. Nothing screamed wealth except the address itself. Inside was different. The foyer opened into a space that managed to feel both enormous and lived in. Hardwood floors scattered with toys, a grand staircase with a child's drawing taped to the banister, expensive furniture that showed signs of actual use, cushions dented, throw blankets draped haphazardly, a coffee table with water rings nobody had bothered to polish away. A woman emerged from what Lena assumed was the kitchen. 50s, gray hair pulled into a practical bun, wearing jeans and a sweater with flour dusted across the front. Her face lit up when she saw Damon. You're home, finally. I was about to drive to that hospital myself and drag you out. Maria, I'm fine. Stop worrying. Damon hugged her, wincing slightly, still sore from the stroke. Stop giving me reasons to worry. Maria pulled back, studied his face with the critical eye of someone who'd known him long enough to see through any bullshit. Then her gaze shifted to Lena. And you must be the woman who saved his life. I'm Lena. Maria, I take care of this house and try to keep these veil men from killing themselves through stupidity. She extended a flour-covered hand, realized the state of it, and wiped it on her jeans before offering it again. Thank you for what you did. I've worked for this family for 12 years. Damon's not just my employer, he's family. You gave him back to us. Lena shook her hand. I just did what anyone should have done, except nobody else did. That makes you special whether you believe it or not. Maria glanced at Damon. Ethan's upstairs. He's been asking about you every 10 minutes since school let out. I'll go get him. Damon headed for the stairs, then paused. Lena, make yourself comfortable. I'll be right back. He disappeared upstairs. Maria gestured toward the living room. Sit. I'll bring coffee, or tea if you prefer, or something stronger if today's been that kind of day. Coffee's good. Thank you. Elizabeth had settled into an armchair, already on her phone, typing rapidly. She looked up long enough to say, the stories everywhere, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, all the major networks. Social media's having a collective meltdown. Marcus Chen's name is trending number 2 worldwide. What's number 1? Lena asked. You are. Lena's stomach dropped. She pulled out her phone, opened Twitter. Her name sat at the top of the trending list with over 3 million tweets. She clicked through to see what people were saying. Most of it was supportive, praising her courage, calling her a hero, condemning Marcus and the restaurant's customers. But scattered throughout were the contrarians, people who insisted the footage was fake, people who claimed Lena was in on some elaborate publicity stunt, people who just didn't want to believe that someone could be that cruel or that people could be that indifferent. Don't read the negative ones, Elizabeth said without looking up from her own phone. They're the minority, and they're idiots. Kind of hard to ignore when they're calling me a crisis actor. Crisis actors get paid more than $10,000. Tell them to fact-check their conspiracy theories. Despite everything, Lena almost smiled. Maria returned with coffee and a plate of cookies that looked homemade. Lena took one. Bit into it. Chocolate chip, still warm, possibly the best cookie she'd ever tasted. These are amazing. Ethan and I made them this afternoon. Keeps his mind off worrying about his father. Maria sat on the couch. He's been scared. Won't say it out loud because he's 5 and thinks being brave means not crying. But I can tell. The nightmares started again. Again? Lena asked. He had them for a year after his mother died. Night terrors, the doctor called them. Screaming himself awake, not remembering in the morning. They'd finally stopped. Now they're back. Elizabeth set her phone down. Did you call Dr. Morrison? I did. She wants to see him Friday. Make sure this is just situational anxiety and not something deeper. Maria looked toward the stairs. That boy's been through too much already. His mother dying, his father working himself to death. Now this. It's not fair. Life rarely is, Elizabeth said quietly. Footsteps on the stairs. Damon descended carrying a small boy with dark hair and enormous brown eyes. The kid was clinging to his father like a barnacle, face buried in Damon's shoulder. Ethan, someone's here to meet you. Damon's voice was gentle, patient. This is Lena. She's the one who helped Daddy when he got sick. Ethan peeked at Lena. Didn't say anything. Hi, Ethan, Lena said. I like your drawing on the stairs. Is that a dragon? Ethan nodded slightly. It's a good dragon. Very fierce. Another nod. Ethan whispered something in Damon's ear. Damon whispered back. Then Ethan looked at Lena directly and said, Thank you for saving my dad. Lena's throat tightened. You're welcome. He's my only parent. If he died, I'd be alone. Ethan, Damon started. It's true. Mommy's gone. If Daddy's gone too, I'd have nobody. You'd have Grandma and Grandpa, Damon said, and Nana Catherine and Papa Robert and Maria. You'd never be alone. But I wouldn't have you. Ethan's voice cracked. And you're the one I want. Damon hugged him tighter. Didn't say anything. Just held his son while the kid tried very hard not to cry in front of strangers. Lena felt like she was intruding on something private. She looked away, giving them space, and caught Elizabeth wiping at her eyes. After a moment, Ethan pulled back. Can I go finish my Legos now? Sure, buddy. Dinner's in an hour. Ethan scrambled down and ran back upstairs. Damon sat on the couch, looking exhausted. Sorry, he's been clingy since I got to the hospital. Refuses to let me out of his sight for more than a few minutes. Don't apologize, Lena said. He almost lost you. Of course he's scared. I keep telling myself it'll get better, that kids are resilient, that he'll bounce back. Damon rubbed his face. But I'm not sure I believe it anymore. Between losing his mother and now this, I think I've damaged him in ways I can't fix. You're doing your best, Maria said. That's all anyone can do. My best nearly got me killed on a restaurant floor. Maybe that's not good enough. Elizabeth stood abruptly. Stop it. You had a medical emergency. That's not failure. That's biology. I walked into a restaurant dressed like a homeless man. I put myself in that situation. You were trying to clear your head, to process grief and stress in the only way you knew how. That's human, Damon, not stupid. Human. Humans don't usually collapse in public and traumatize their 5-year-old. The room went quiet. Lena could feel the weight of old arguments, old guilt, old wounds that had never properly healed. This family knew loss, carried it, let it shape them in ways that weren't always healthy. Can I ask you something? Lena said. Damon looked at her. Sure. Why do you disguise yourself? When you go walking, I mean. Why dress like you're homeless? Because people treat you differently when they think you're poor. They're honest in a way they're not when they know you have money. I wanted to see the real city, not the version people perform for billionaires. And what did you see? Mostly indifference. People step over you, look through you, act like you don't exist unless you're directly in their way. But occasionally, very occasionally, you meet someone who treats you like you're human regardless of what you're wearing or how much money they think you have. Those people are rare, worth finding. Like Lena, Elizabeth said. Like Lena, Damon agreed. He met Lena's eyes. I've met a lot of people in my life. Most want something. Money, connections, access, favors. You wanted nothing except to help a stranger who looked like he needed it. That's so rare it might as well be mythical. I'm not a unicorn. I'm just a waitress who lost her job. You're the person who made the right choice when everyone else made the easy one. That matters more than you think. Lena's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. Whitmore calling. I should take this. She stepped into the foyer. Hello? Miss Hart, have you seen the news in the last 20 minutes? No. Why? Marcus Chen just gave an interview to NBC. He's claiming the footage is edited, that we've manipulated it to make him look bad. He's threatening to sue for defamation. Can he do that? He can try. Won't work. We have the original files with metadata proving they're unaltered, but it's going to drag this out. Make it messier. Whitmore sighed. I wanted to warn you. This is about to get ugly. Uglier than it already is? Yes, much uglier. Marcus is cornered. Cornered animals bite. What do I need to do? Nothing? Stay with the Vales tonight. We've increased security at your apartment, but I'd feel better if you weren't there for the next day or two. Let this initial frenzy die down. My mom's there, alone. We've arranged for a nurse to stay with her, medical care and security in one. She'll be safe. Lena closed her eyes. This was her life now. Nurses and security guards and lawyers calling with updates about defamation lawsuits. She'd saved a man's life, and somehow that had turned her entire existence upside down. Okay, she said. I'll stay here. Good. I'll call tomorrow with updates. She ended the call. Returned to the living room. Everyone looked at her expectantly. Marcus is saying the footage is fake. He's threatening to sue. Damon's expression didn't change. Let him sue. We'll bury him in discovery. Every phone record, every financial transaction, every email. By the time we're done, the world will know exactly what kind of man he is. This is going to take forever, isn't it? Probably. Legal battles usually do, but we've got time and resources, and most importantly, we've got the truth. Maria stood. Dinner's almost ready. Lena, you're staying, obviously. I'll set another place. I don't want to impose. You're not imposing. You're family now. That's how this works. You saved Damon, which means you're stuck with all of us. Maria headed toward the kitchen. Hope you like lasagna. Dinner was strange and wonderful and occasionally awkward. Ethan sat next to his father, close enough that their shoulders touched. He didn't talk much, just pushed food around his plate and snuck glances at Lena like she might disappear if he looked away too long. Elizabeth dominated the conversation, telling stories about Damon as a child that made him groan and Ethan giggle. Maria kept everyone's plates full and deflected any attempt to help clean up. And Lena just sat there, absorbing the warmth of being part of something that felt like family, even though she'd known these people for less than a week. After dinner, Ethan asked if Lena wanted to see his Lego city. She followed him upstairs to a bedroom that looked like a toy store had exploded. Legos covered every surface, elaborate constructions of buildings and vehicles, and what appeared to be a dragon attacking a castle. This is amazing, Lena said. Daddy helps sometimes, but mostly I build it myself. Ethan picked up a Lego figure. This one's the hero. He saves people. What's his name? Captain Brave. He's not scared of anything. That must be nice. Ethan looked at her seriously. Are you scared? Sometimes. Yeah. Of what? Lena sat on the floor next to him. Lots of things. That people won't believe me. That the bad guy will win. That I'll let down the people counting on me. But you're a hero, like Captain Brave. Heroes aren't supposed to be scared. Real heroes are scared. They just do the right thing anyway. That's what makes them brave. Ethan considered this. Then he handed her the Lego figure. You can be Captain Brave. I'll be the dragon. We can have a battle. They played for 20 minutes. Ethan created elaborate scenarios where the dragon threatened the city and Captain Brave had to save everyone. He narrated the whole thing in different voices, getting so absorbed in the story that he forgot to be sad or scared. When Damon came to get him for bath time, Ethan hugged Lena goodnight like they'd known each other for years. Will you come back tomorrow? If your dad says it's okay, Damon said immediately. You're welcome here anytime. After Ethan's bath, after the bedtime story, after Maria had gone home and Elizabeth had retired to the guest room, Lena and Damon sat in the living room with wine. Neither of them was really drinking. Thank you, Damon said, for playing with him. He doesn't warm up to people easily. His therapist says it's attachment issues from losing his mother. He's a sweet kid. He's a scared kid pretending to be brave, like his father. You're not pretending. You went on national television and exposed a liar. That takes actual courage. Or stupidity. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. Damon set his wine glass down. Can I tell you something I haven't told anyone else? Sure. I'm terrified I'm going to have another stroke. That next time I won't be lucky enough to have someone like you nearby. That I'll die and leave Ethan completely alone. His voice cracked slightly. I lie awake at night thinking about it. About him growing up without parents. About all the moments I'll miss. First day of school, graduation, wedding, grandkids. All of it gone because my brain decided to malfunction at 32. Did the doctor say you're at risk for another one? They said it's possible. They want me to reduce stress, change my diet, exercise more. All the things I don't have time for because running a billion-dollar company while raising a kid alone doesn't leave much room for yoga and kale smoothies. So change your priorities. It's not that simple, isn't it? You almost died. You have a son who needs you alive more than he needs you successful. Seems pretty simple from where I'm sitting. Damon looked at her. You don't pull punches, do you? Not really. Life's too short for polite lies. My wife used to say that. Caroline. She had this way of cutting through bullshit and getting straight to what mattered. I miss that. I miss her. Tell me about her. She was a pediatric oncologist, worked at Sloan Kettering. We met at a fundraiser I didn't want to attend. She spent the whole night telling me that rich people throwing parties wasn't the same as actually helping sick kids, and if I really cared, I should donate directly to research instead of wasting money on champagne and caviar. Damon smiled at the memory. I fell in love with her before dessert was served. She sounds amazing. She was. She also would have hated me working 80-hour weeks and neglecting our son. Would have told me exactly what you just did. That I'm prioritizing wrong. That money doesn't matter if you're not alive to spend it. So listen to her, even if she's not here to say it herself. I've been trying, but every time I think about stepping back from the company, I hear my father's voice in my head telling me that Vale men don't quit, that we built this empire and we have a responsibility to maintain it. Your father's not raising Ethan, you are. His opinion doesn't get a vote. Damon laughed. You'd get along with Caroline, she used to say things like that. Made me realize how much I was living according to other people's rules instead of my own. They sat in comfortable silence. Outside, snow had started falling again. The city was quiet as Manhattan ever got. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed, life continuing its messy, complicated march forward. What are you going to do? Lena asked. After all this is over. After Marcus is dealt with and the press moves on to the next story. I don't know. Part of me wants to burn it all down. Sell the company, take Ethan somewhere quiet, live a normal life where nobody knows my name. And the other part? Thinks that's running away. That I've built something that employs thousands of people and contributes to the economy and matters in ways that go beyond my personal happiness. Both things can be true. I suppose. Damon looked at her. What about you? What are you going to do? Find a job, I guess. Once my name's cleared and people stop thinking I'm a thief, you could work for me. Lena blinked. What? I'm serious. I need someone I can trust. Someone who isn't going to blow smoke or tell me what I want to hear. Someone who sees me as human instead of a walking bank account. That's you. I'm a waitress. I don't know anything about running a company. I don't need another executive. I have plenty of those. I need someone real. Someone who remembers what it's like to struggle. Someone who can keep me honest. That's the strangest job description I've ever heard. Is that a no? Lena thought about it. About returning to restaurants where managers would always wonder if she was the waitress from that incident. About starting over in an industry that chewed people up and spit them out. About the endless cycle of bad tips and worse treatment. Can I think about it? Of course. Take all the time you need. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. A text from Daniel. Did you see Chen's interview? He's lying through his teeth. This is insane. Lena typed back. I know. Lawyers are handling it. How are you doing? Scared, but okay. Thanks for asking. She set the phone down. Daniel's freaking out. Marcus's interview spooked him. Understandable. He put himself at considerable risk by coming forward. You'll protect him too, right? Like you're protecting me? Already done. James has him set up with security and legal representation. Nobody touches him without going through us first. Thank you. Don't thank me. This whole mess happened because I decided to go for a walk. You and Daniel are dealing with the consequences of my choices. The least I can do is make sure you're safe. Elizabeth appeared in the doorway, wearing a robe. I'm heading to bed. Lena, the guest room on the 3rd floor is made up. Fresh towels in the bathroom. Help yourself to anything you need. Thank you. And Damon, don't stay up too late. You need rest. Yes, Mother. Elizabeth smiled. Get used to it. I'm going to be monitoring your recovery like a hawk. No more collapsing in public. She disappeared upstairs. Damon shook his head. She's been insufferable since the stroke, hovering, asking how I feel every 20 minutes. She loves you. That's how it looks. I know. Doesn't make it less annoying. They talked for another hour. About nothing important. Movies they'd seen, books they'd read, places they wanted to visit someday. Normal conversation between two people who were slowly becoming friends despite the surreal circumstances that had brought them together. Finally, exhaustion won. Lena said goodnight and climbed to the third floor. The guest room was bigger than her entire apartment. King-size bed with a duvet that felt like sleeping on a cloud. Private bathroom with a shower that had more settings than her TV. She stood under hot water for 20 minutes, letting the day wash off. When she finally got out, she found pajamas laid out on the bed. Soft cotton, her size, with a note from Maria. Thought you might need these. Sleep well. M. Lena crawled into bed. The sheet smelled like lavender. The mattress cradled her body in a way that made her realize how much pain she'd been carrying. Her phone buzzed one last time. A text from Whitmore. Marcus's lawyer just called. They want to settle. We told them to fuck off. Sleep tight. Lena smiled, turned off the phone, closed her eyes, and for the first time in a week, she slept through the night without nightmares. Morning came with the smell of coffee and bacon. Lena followed the scent downstairs to find Maria cooking breakfast while Ethan sat at the kitchen table doing homework. Damon was on a phone call in his office, voice carrying through the open door. I don't care what the board thinks. I'm taking a month off. Doctor's orders. If they have a problem with that, they can vote me out. A pause. Good. Then it's settled. Jeff runs things while I'm gone. Any major decisions get put on hold until I'm back. That's final. He emerged from the office looking satisfied. Morning. Sleep well? Better than I have in years. Good. Because today's going to be complicated. Marcus is holding another press conference at 10 a.m. We're expecting him to double down on the fake footage narrative. What are we going to do? Let him dig himself deeper. Then we release the forensic analysis proving the footage is unedited. Checkmate. Breakfast was chaos in the best way. Ethan spilled orange juice, Maria burned the first batch of bacon. Damon's phone rang 6 times before he finally turned it off. And through it all, there was laughter, warmth, the feeling of being part of something that mattered in ways that had nothing to do with money or status. At 9:45 a.m., they gathered in the living room. Damon turned on the TV. NBC had promised live coverage of Marcus's press conference. Marcus appeared on screen at exactly 10 o'clock. He stood behind a podium in what looked like a hotel conference room, flanked by 2 lawyers who both appeared uncomfortable. Marcus himself looked terrible, pale, sweating, eyes darting around like a cornered animal. Thank you for coming, he began. His voice shook. I'm here to address the false accusations that have been made against me by Damon Vale and his legal team. He cleared his throat, took a sip of water. The footage released yesterday has been manipulated, edited to show events out of context and make me appear negligent. In reality, I did everything possible to help Mr. Vale when he collapsed at Aurelius. I called 911 immediately, performed CPR, and stayed with him until paramedics arrived. One of his lawyers leaned over and whispered something. Marcus nodded. I have witnesses who will testify to my actions that night, customers who saw everything, staff members who can corroborate my version of events. The truth will come out in court, and when it does, Mr. Vale and his representatives will be held accountable for their defamation. A reporter shouted a question. Mr. Chen, why would Damon Vale lie about someone who saved his life? Marcus's face flushed. I can't speak to his motivations. Perhaps he's embarrassed that he needed help. Perhaps this is a publicity stunt. I don't know. What I do know is that I'm being destroyed by lies, and I will fight to clear my name. Another reporter. Can you explain why you deleted the restaurant's security footage? Marcus hesitated. I didn't delete anything. The system malfunctioned, technical issues, it happens. And the witnesses you paid to sign statements, I never paid anyone. That's another lie being spread by people who want to discredit me. The press conference devolved into chaos. Reporters shouting over each other, Marcus's lawyers trying to shut it down, Marcus himself looking like he might vomit on camera. Damon turned off the TV. He's done. That performance was a disaster. He looked guilty as hell, Elizabeth agreed. When do we release the forensic analysis? Lena asked. Tonight. Let his lies sit for a few hours. Let people start questioning him. Then we drop the hammer. Damon stood. In the meantime, I have something I need to do. He left the room, returned 5 minutes later carrying a folder. Lena, I want to show you something. He opened the folder. Inside were architectural drawings for a restaurant. Not just any restaurant, something beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows, an open kitchen, a dining room that looked both elegant and welcoming. What is this? A project I've been thinking about. A restaurant built on a different model. Living wages for staff. No tipping. Profit sharing. A place where employees are treated like humans instead of disposable labor. That's amazing. It's also missing something. A person to run it. Someone who understands what it's like to work in the industry. Someone who won't forget where they came from even when they have power. He looked at her. I want it to be you. Lena stared at the drawings. I don't know how to run a restaurant. You'll learn. I'll hire consultants, provide training, give you whatever support you need, but the vision has to come from you. Because you're the one who knows what workers need, what would make their lives better, what would create a place worth working at instead of just another job. This is too much. I can't. Yes, you can. You saved my life because you saw me as human when nobody else did. Now I'm asking you to build something that treats everyone that way, not just the customers. Everyone. Lena looked at the drawings again, at the possibility they represented, a chance to create something that mattered, to prove that business didn't have to chew people up and spit them out, that there was another way. Okay, she said quietly. I'll do it. Damon smiled. Good, because I already bought the building. That evening, at exactly 6 p.m., Whitmore released the forensic analysis. It was 73 pages of technical documentation proving that the footage from Damon's smart glasses was completely unedited. Metadata, file structure, timestamp verification, everything pointed to the same conclusion. Marcus Chen had lied. The internet exploded. Within an hour, Marcus's name was trending again. But this time, the tweets weren't praising him. They were calling for his arrest. His resignation, his complete and total destruction. By midnight, he'd lost his job. The owner of Aurelius released a statement terminating Marcus's employment and apologizing to both Damon and Lena. Two of the three witnesses who'd signed statements recanted, admitting they'd been paid to lie. And the district attorney announced that his office would be pursuing criminal charges. Lena watched it all unfold from the Vale townhouse, surrounded by people who'd become something like family in less than a week. And for the first time since that freezing November night, she felt like maybe things would actually be okay. Maybe the truth did matter after all. 3 weeks after Marcus Chen's world collapsed on live television, Lena stood in front of her mother's hospital room, holding a folder full of paperwork she didn't fully understand. The experimental treatment had been approved, $60,000 that would have taken Lena a decade to save. Now paid in full by a check that still didn't feel real even after it had cleared. Margaret was sleeping when Lena entered. The new medication had helped. Her color was better, the pain lines around her eyes less pronounced. Dr. Richardson had used words like promising and cautiously optimistic, which in doctor speak translated to something close to hope. Lena sat in the chair beside the bed and watched her mother breathe, in and out. The simple miracle of lungs that still worked, a heart that still beat. How many times had she almost lost this? How many nights had she lain awake doing the math, trying to figure out how to choose between her mother's life and their ability to keep a roof over their heads? You're staring again, Margaret said without opening her eyes. Sorry, didn't mean to wake you. You didn't. The nurse was just here, poked me full of holes and told me my numbers are improving. Margaret opened her eyes. You look tired. I'm fine. You're a terrible liar. You always have been. Margaret shifted in the bed, wincing. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's actually going right for once. That's the problem. I don't know how to handle it when things go right. So you're self-sabotaging, creating problems where none exist? Maybe. Probably. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for someone to realize they made a mistake trusting me, for this whole thing to fall apart. Margaret reached for Lena's hand. Her grip was weak but steady. Baby, you saved a man's life. You stood up to a bully. You told the truth when it would have been easier to stay quiet. That's not luck. That's character. Nobody's going to realize they made a mistake because they didn't. You earned this. I gave him water. That's all I did. Water and basic human decency. Which was more than anyone else gave him. Stop minimizing what you did. Margaret squeezed her hand. When do you start training for the restaurant? Next week. Damon hired a consultant, some woman who ran 3 Michelin-starred places in Europe. She's supposed to teach me everything from menu development to staff management to health code compliance. You're scared, terrified. I've never managed anything in my life. What if I'm terrible at it? What if I run the place into the ground and waste all of Damon's money? Then you'll fail, and then you'll figure out what comes next. That's how life works. Very reassuring, Mom. I'm old and dying. I'm allowed to be blunt. Margaret smiled. Besides, you won't fail. You're too stubborn. You get that from me. A knock on the door. Whitmore entered, carrying his ever-present briefcase. Miss Hart? Mrs. Hart. I hope I'm not interrupting. Just a daughter having a minor breakdown, Margaret said. Come in. Join the party. Whitmore sat in the other chair. He looked pleased, which was unusual. Lawyers in expensive suits generally cultivated expressions of professional neutrality, but today he was almost smiling. I have news. The district attorney's office has accepted Marcus Chen's plea agreement. He's pleading guilty to evidence tampering, witness bribery, and fraud. Sentencing is scheduled for next month, but based on the DA's recommendation, he's looking at 18 months in prison and 5 years probation. Lena felt numb. That's it? 18 months? He also has to pay restitution. $200,000 to you, $100,000 to Mr. Vale, $50,000 to Daniel Park. His career is destroyed. He'll never work in hospitality again, and he'll carry a felony conviction for the rest of his life. Whitmore opened his briefcase. It's not perfect justice, but it's something. What about the people at Aurelius who just watched? The customers who sat there drinking wine while a man died? They didn't break any laws. Morally bankrupt? Absolutely. Criminally liable? Unfortunately not. Margaret spoke up. Sometimes the worst things people do aren't illegal. They're just cruel, and cruelty doesn't always come with consequences. No, Whitmore agreed. It doesn't. He pulled out another folder. However, several of those customers have reached out privately. Written apologies. Donations to charities in your name. One couple started a foundation for homeless services in Manhattan. They're calling it the Second Glance Initiative. Trying to atone, I suppose. A foundation doesn't undo watching someone die. No, but it might help the next person. That counts for something. After Whitmore left, Lena sat with her mother in silence. The hospital room was quiet except for the beep of monitors and the distant sound of a TV playing in someone else's room. You need to forgive them, Margaret said finally. Who? Those people. The ones at the restaurant. You're carrying it around like a weight. I can see it on you. They laughed, Mom, while Damon was dying. They actually laughed. I know, and that's something they'll have to live with. But you don't have to carry their guilt for them. That's theirs, not yours. How do you forgive something like that? You don't forgive the action. You forgive the people. Because people are complicated and broken, and sometimes they do terrible things when they're scared or uncomfortable or just don't know what else to do. That doesn't make it right. But it makes it human, Lena wanted to argue. Wanted to hold on to the anger because anger felt safer than the alternative. But her mother was dying. Slowly, hopefully slowly enough that the treatment would work, but dying nonetheless, and she'd learned not to waste the time they had left arguing about things that didn't matter. I'll think about it, Lena said. That's all I ask. The following week, Lena started her training. The consultant's name was Marie Duchamp, and she was exactly as intimidating as Lena had feared. 60 years old, French accent thick enough to cut with a knife, opinions about everything from plate presentation to bathroom cleanliness. A restaurant is not just food, Marie said on the first day. It is an experience. Every detail matters. The temperature of the room, the weight of the silverware, the time between courses. You are not serving meals. You are creating moments people will remember. Right. No pressure. Enormous pressure. That is the job. If you cannot handle pressure, you should sell shoes instead. They spent 8 hours a day together. Marie taught Lena how to read profit and loss statements, how to negotiate with suppliers, how to build a menu that balanced creativity with profitability. She was harsh when Lena made mistakes and stingy with praise when she got things right. You have instincts, Marie said after the first week. Raw, unrefined, but present. We can work with this. Was that a compliment? It was an observation. Do not get emotional. Despite the intensity, Lena found herself loving it. The challenge, the complexity, the feeling that she was building something that could actually matter. Marie talked about restaurants as places where people celebrated and mourned and fell in love and broke up and made peace with their demons, where a good meal could change someone's entire day and a bad one could ruin it. Food is intimate, Marie said. You are quite literally putting something inside another person's body. They trust you not to poison them, not to make them sick. That trust is sacred. You honor it or you are nothing. On Friday of the second week, Damon took Lena to see the building he'd purchased for the restaurant. It occupied a corner lot in Brooklyn, close enough to Manhattan to draw the dinner crowd, but far enough away to feel like its own world. 3 stories, brick facade, windows that stretched from floor to ceiling. Inside was gutted. Bare walls, exposed beams, concrete floors covered in construction dust. But Lena could see it. The open kitchen Marie had described. The dining room with tables spaced far enough apart that conversations stayed private. The staff break room that would actually be comfortable instead of an afterthought. What do you think? Damon asked. I think it's terrifying and perfect, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Nobody does when they start. You figure it out as you go. They walked through the space. Damon pointed out where the bar would go, where the bathrooms would be, where they'd build the office. He'd hired architects and contractors and designers, but he kept asking Lena's opinion on everything. What kind of lighting did she want? What color should the walls be? Did she prefer round tables or square? You're the one paying for all this, Lena said. Shouldn't you make these decisions? I'm financing it. You're running it. Big difference. Damon stopped in what would eventually be the dining room. This is your vision, Lena. I'm just the bank. You tell me what you need, and I'll make it happen. I need this to not fail. I need it to actually work, to prove that you can run a business without treating people like garbage. Then that's what we'll do. A pause. Lena looked around the empty space. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why does this matter so much to you? You could have just paid Marcus off, made the problem go away, moved on with your life. Why go through all this trouble? Damon was quiet for a moment. Because I'm tired of living in a world where cruelty is rewarded and kindness is punished. Where people like Marcus Chen get ahead by stepping on everyone below them. Where someone like you, someone good, loses their job for doing the right thing. He met her eyes. I can't fix the whole world, but I can fix this one thing. Build this one place where the rules are different. Maybe that matters. Maybe it doesn't, but I have to try. That's the most idealistic thing I've ever heard from a billionaire. Yeah, well, dying changes your perspective. They spent another hour walking through the space, making plans, dreaming about what it could become. When they finally left, Lena felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real tangible hope that wasn't just wishful thinking. The welcome back dinner was Damon's idea. A month after his release from the hospital, he wanted to gather the people who mattered, family, friends, the few business associates he actually trusted, and mark his return to normal life. Elizabeth had pushed back, worried it was too soon, but Damon insisted. I'm not an invalid. I'm not fragile. I had a stroke. I survived, and now I'm moving forward. Let me do this. The dinner was held at a private dining room in a hotel in Midtown. Nothing as ostentatious as Aurelius. Damon had deliberately chosen somewhere understated. 50 guests, simple menu, the focus on people, not performance. Lena arrived with her mother, who was having a good day. The treatment was working, not a miracle, not a cure, but improvement. Measurable, undeniable improvement. Margaret walked without assistance, smiled without pain shadowing her expression, looked more like the woman Lena remembered from childhood than she had in months. Ethan ran up to Lena the moment she entered. You came. I didn't think you'd come. I promised, didn't I? Adults break promises sometimes. Not this one. Not to you. He grabbed her hand and dragged her over to meet his grandparents, Damon's parents, elegant and reserved, and Catherine and Robert Shaw, who'd flown in from Connecticut. Catherine hugged Lena without warning. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for bringing him back to us. Robert just shook her hand, but his eyes were wet. You're a remarkable young woman. We're in your debt. Daniel was there too, looking uncomfortable in a suit that was slightly too big. He'd gotten a new job, assistant manager at a restaurant in Queens that paid better and actually valued his input. He and Lena talked for a few minutes about their respective fresh starts before he was pulled away by someone's aunt who wanted to hear the whole story firsthand. At 7 p.m., everyone took their seats. Damon stood at the head of the table, Ethan beside him. The room quieted. "Thank you all for coming," Damon began. "The past month has been the strangest of my life. I almost died. I was saved by a stranger. I watched someone I'd never met risk everything to help me. And then I watched that same person get destroyed by lies from a man who cared more about his reputation than another human's life." He paused, looked directly at Lena. "But here's what I've learned. Truth is stubborn. You can bury it for a while. You can tell prettier stories, but eventually truth digs its way back to the surface, and when it does, it changes everything." Someone started a projector. The screen behind Damon lit up. Lena's stomach dropped. She hadn't known there would be visuals. The footage from the smart glasses began to play. The same footage the world had already seen, but watching it again, watching herself on that screen, watching Damon collapse, watching Marcus film it, hit different in a room full of people who'd been there for the aftermath. When it ended, Damon spoke again. "That woman, Lena Hart, saw me as human when nobody else did. She didn't know my name, didn't know my net worth, didn't care about any of the things that usually make people pay attention to me. She just saw someone suffering and decided to help." He pressed a button on a remote. The screen changed. Now it showed the restaurant plans. The architectural drawings Lena had been studying for weeks. "This is what we're building. A restaurant that operates on a different model. No tipping, living wages, profit sharing, healthcare, paid sick leave. Everything the industry says is impossible, and Lena's going to run it." The room erupted in applause. Lena felt her face burn. She hadn't expected this, hadn't prepared for public acknowledgement. "But before we celebrate the future," Damon continued, "I want to address the past. Specifically, I want to address the people who were at Aurelius that night, the ones who watched and did nothing." The applause died. The room went tense. "Some of you have reached out privately, apologized, made donations, started foundations. I appreciate those gestures, but apologies without changed behavior are just words. So here's what I'm asking. Look at that screen. Look at that footage. Really look at it, and ask yourself, what would I do differently next time?" He let that sit for a moment. Because there will be a next time. Someone will need help. Someone will be suffering, and you'll have a choice. Look away, like you did before. Or step up, like Lena did. That choice defines you more than any charity check or public apology ever could. The silence was profound, uncomfortable. Lena could see people shifting in their seats, avoiding eye contact. "Now," Damon said, his tone lightening, "let's eat. And let's celebrate the fact that kindness still exists, that truth still matters, and that sometimes the right person shows up at exactly the right moment." Dinner was served. Lena barely tasted her food. People kept coming up to her, strangers mostly, offering congratulations or sharing their own stories of times they'd helped someone or times they hadn't and regretted it. Each conversation felt heavy with meaning she wasn't sure she wanted to carry. Halfway through dessert, Damon stood again. "One more thing. Lena, can you come up here?" Lena's heart hammered. She walked to the front of the room, acutely aware of everyone watching. Damon handed her an envelope. "This is yours. Open it." Inside was a check. Not the $200,000 for Marcus's restitution. A different check. For $1.5 million. Lena stared at it. "What is this?" "Your share of the restaurant, 49% ownership. You're not just running it, you own it. Your name on the deed, your stake in the profits, your business." "Damon, I can't." "Yes, you can, and you will, because this isn't charity, it's an investment. I'm betting that you're going to build something incredible, something that lasts. And when you do, I want to be able to say I was smart enough to believe in you from the beginning." Lena's eyes burned. She blinked hard, refusing to cry in front of 50 strangers. "This is too much." "It's not enough, but it's a start." Damon smiled. "Besides, you already told me you'd do it. Can't back out now." The room applauded again. Lena stood there, holding a check that represented more money than she'd thought existed in the world, feeling like she'd stepped into someone else's life. After dinner, after the speeches and the thank yous and the endless photographs, Lena found herself alone on the hotel terrace. The city spread out below, millions of lights cutting through the darkness. Cold air bit at her face, but she didn't care. She needed a moment away from the noise. "You okay?" She turned. Damon stood in the doorway, Ethan asleep on his shoulder. "Yeah, just processing." "It's a lot. I probably should have warned you about the whole public presentation thing." "You think?" He laughed quietly, joined her at the railing, careful not to wake Ethan. "I meant what I said in there. About the restaurant, about you." "I know, that's what scares me." "Why?" "Because what if I mess it up? What if I'm not as good as you think I am? What if all of this, the money, the opportunity, the faith you're putting in me, what if it's misplaced? Then we'll figure it out. We'll adjust. We'll try something else. But I don't think that's going to happen. You know why?" "Why?" "Because you care. Really care. Not about profit margins or quarterly returns or impressing investors. You care about the people who'll work there, about creating something that matters. That kind of caring is rare, especially in business. It's worth betting on." Ethan stirred, made a small sound, settled back to sleep. Damon adjusted his grip and Lena saw it, the fierce protectiveness of a father who'd almost lost the chance to hold his son again. "Can I tell you something?" Lena said. "Anything. I think that night at Aurelius, I think it saved both of us. Not just you physically, but both of us from the lives we were living. You were running yourself into the ground. I was invisible, disposable, convinced I didn't matter. We were both dying in different ways. And then everything fell apart, and somehow that created space for something better." Damon considered this. "So what you're saying is, me having a stroke was the best thing that ever happened to us? That's a terrible way to phrase it. But not entirely wrong. Not entirely." They stood there for a while, watching the city breathe. Lena thought about all the moments that had led here. The choice to give water instead of walking away. The choice to stand up to Marcus. The choice to trust Damon and his lawyers, and the belief that truth still mattered. Small choices. Individual moments. But strung together, they'd changed everything. "What are you going to name it?" Damon asked. "The restaurant." Lena had been thinking about this for weeks. She'd considered dozens of options. Clever names, meaningful names, names that sounded expensive or welcoming or sophisticated, but only one felt right. "Second glance," she said, "because everyone deserves a second look, a chance to be seen as more than what they appear to be at first." "I like it. It's perfect." "You don't think it's too on the nose?" "Maybe, but sometimes on the nose is exactly what's needed. Subtle doesn't always translate." Ethan woke up slightly, blinked at Lena, smiled. "Hi, Lena." "Hi, buddy. Did you have a good time at dinner?" "It was boring. Too many grown-ups talking." "Yeah, grown-ups do that a lot." "Will you come to my school tomorrow? I want to show my friends the person who saved my dad." Lena's throat tightened. "If your dad says it's okay." "It's okay," Damon said immediately. "More than okay." They went back inside. The party was winding down. People gathering coats, saying goodbyes, promising to stay in touch. Margaret was talking to Elizabeth, both women laughing about something. Daniel was exchanging numbers with one of Damon's cousins. Whitmore approached Lena. "Before you leave, there's one more piece of business." He handed her a folder. Inside was a legal document, settlement agreement. Marcus Chen had officially forfeited all claims, retracted all statements, and acknowledged that his version of events had been fabricated. His signature was at the bottom, shaky and small. "It's over," Whitmore said. "Officially, legally, completely over." "What happens to him now?" "He serves his time, gets out, tries to rebuild a life with a felony conviction and a reputation in ruins. It won't be easy." "Good." Whitmore looked at her curiously. "You really feel that way? No sympathy for a man whose life is destroyed? He destroyed his own life. I just refuse to let him destroy mine in the process. That's not cruelty. That's survival." "Fair enough." Whitmore extended his hand. "It's been a pleasure working with you, Miss Hart. If you ever need legal representation in the future, don't hesitate to call." Let's hope I never need a lawyer again. In my experience, everyone needs a lawyer eventually, but I appreciate the sentiment. 6 months later, Second Glance opened its doors for the first time. The construction had taken longer than expected. Permits and inspections and 1,000 small disasters that Marie handled with the efficiency of someone who'd seen it all before. But finally, on a Tuesday in May, they were ready. The staff was small, 12 people total, 6 in the kitchen, 6 front of house. Each one hand-picked. Each one someone who'd been chewed up by the industry and needed a place that saw them as human instead of replaceable. There was Carmen, a single mother who'd lost 3 restaurant jobs when childcare fell through. Now she worked 4 days a week with a schedule that accommodated her kids' school hours. There was Jerome, who'd been homeless for 2 years before a shelter program connected him with Second Glance's job training initiative. He worked prep in the kitchen and lived in an apartment the restaurant helped him secure. There was Anita, 63 years old, who'd been forced out of her last job because the owner wanted younger, prettier servers. Now she ran the front of house with the authority of someone who'd forgotten more about hospitality than most people would ever learn. Each person had a story. Each story mattered. Lena learned them all. Opening night was invitation only. Friends, family, press, and a handful of industry people who'd expressed genuine interest in what Second Glance was trying to do. Lena stood in the kitchen, watching the tickets print, feeling her heart hammer against her ribs. "Breathe," Marie said. "You have trained for this. The food is excellent. The staff is ready. Trust the process. What if nobody comes back after tonight? What if this only works because it's opening night and everyone's curious? Then you adjust, you learn, you improve. That is the job. Now go greet your guests. Let them see your face. Show them that this place has a soul." Lena walked into the dining room. It was beautiful. Warm lighting, comfortable chairs, tables set with simple elegance. The open kitchen meant guests could watch the cooks work. No hiding, no secrets, just the honest labor of preparing food. Damon was there with Ethan and Elizabeth. Margaret sat at a table near the window, color in her cheeks, laughing at something Daniel was saying. The treatment had worked. Not perfectly, cancer never worked that way. But enough. Remission. Time. Hope. Throughout the evening, Lena moved between tables, talking to guests, accepting compliments, explaining the restaurant's model when people asked. And people asked a lot. How do you make this financially sustainable? Careful budgeting, slightly higher prices. A business model built on longevity instead of exploitation. What about tipping? We pay living wages. Guests can tip if they want, but staff aren't dependent on it. Is this scalable? We'll see. Right now we're focused on making this one location work. An older man stopped her. Peter Caldwell, the one who'd called to apologize after the press conference. "Miss Hart, I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For reminding me that I can be better. My wife and I have been volunteering at a homeless shelter downtown, 3 days a week. It's not much, but it's something. And we wouldn't be doing it if you hadn't shown us what it looks like to actually help instead of just watching." Lena didn't know what to say. She settled for, "That means a lot. Thank you for telling me." As the night wound down, as the last guests left and the staff began cleaning up, Lena stood in the dining room and let herself feel it. Pride, accomplishment, the bone-deep satisfaction of building something that mattered. Damon appeared beside her. "How does it feel?" "Like I might throw up. But in a good way." That's the correct response to opening a restaurant. They stood there watching the staff work. Everyone was tired but smiling, joking with each other, moving with the easy rhythm of a team that actually functioned. "You did it," Damon said. "You built something real. We did it. This doesn't exist without you. I wrote the checks. You created the vision. There's a difference." Ethan ran up carrying a piece of paper. "Lena, I drew you a picture. It's the restaurant. See? That's you in the window, and that's the people eating, and that's the dragon outside protecting everyone." Lena took the drawing. It was exactly as he'd described, crude but earnest, the kind of art that came from the heart instead of technical skill. "This is perfect. Can I keep it?" "Yeah, you can put it on your wall so everyone knows the dragon's watching." "I'll do that." Ethan hugged her quickly, then ran off to bother the kitchen staff. Damon watched him go with the expression of a man who'd learned not to take moments for granted. "He's doing better," Damon said. The nightmares stopped. His therapist says he's processing the trauma in healthier ways. That's good. She also says having you in his life helped. Gave him proof that people can be trusted, that strangers can become family. He's a good kid, easy to care about. He thinks you're a superhero, tells everyone at school about how you saved his dad. I'm not a superhero, I just gave you water. You gave me more than water. You gave me my life back. You gave Ethan his father. You gave my mother her son. That's not nothing. Lena looked at him. At this man who'd walked into her life during the worst shift she'd ever worked and somehow transformed everything. You gave me something too. A chance. A purpose. A reason to believe I could be more than what I was. You were always more. I just helped you see it. The staff finished cleaning. Anita locked the front door. Carmen turned off the dining room lights. Jerome and the other kitchen workers filed out the back, calling goodbyes. Marie was the last to leave. She hugged Lena, the first physical affection she'd shown in 6 months of training. You did well tonight. Very well. I am proud. Thank you for everything, for teaching me. You were a good student, not great, but good. That is enough. Marie smiled. I will see you tomorrow. We discussed tonight's service and how to improve. When everyone was gone, it was just Lena and Damon and the quiet restaurant. They sat at one of the tables, exhausted, relieved, already thinking about tomorrow. What happens now? Lena asked. Now we do it again and again, until it becomes routine, until people forget this was ever unusual, until paying workers fairly and treating them like humans is just how restaurants operate. That's ambitious. That's necessary. Damon leaned back in his chair. You know what I realized? That night at Aurelius when I was dying on the floor, I wasn't scared of death. I was scared of dying alone, of leaving Ethan without anyone who'd really see him, who'd fight for him, who'd love him without conditions. You have that. Your family. I have that now, but I didn't then, or I didn't believe I did. I'd spent so long being Damon Vale, CEO, that I forgot how to be Damon Vale, human. You reminded me, by treating me like I mattered when I looked like I didn't. Lena thought about that night, how scared she'd been, how angry, how absolutely certain that helping him was the right thing, even when it cost her everything. I'd do it again, she said. Knowing what I know now, knowing how hard it would be, I'd still give you that water. I know, that's what makes you you. They sat in comfortable silence. Outside, the city continued its endless motion. People working night shifts, couples walking home from dinner, taxis hunting for fares. All of it normal. All of it extraordinary. Lena's phone buzzed. A text from her mother. So proud of you, baby. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's another day. She smiled. Typed back. Love you, Mom. Damon stood, stretched. I should get home. Ethan's spending the night at my mother's, but I promised I'd call before bedtime. Thank you for coming tonight. For everything. Thank you for saving my life, for building this, for showing me that kindness isn't weakness. He left through the front door. Lena locked it behind him, then stood in the empty restaurant for a long moment. Her restaurant, her vision, her chance to prove that business didn't have to be brutal to be successful. She thought about Marcus Chen sitting in a prison cell somewhere, paying for his cruelty. She thought about the people at Aurelius who'd watched and done nothing, living with that choice. She thought about Peter Caldwell and his wife, trying to atone by helping strangers. Everyone carried the consequences of their choices. The difference was whether those consequences made you better or just bitter. Lena chose better. She turned off the lights, set the alarm, and walked out into the New York night. The air was warm, carrying the smell of rain that hadn't fallen yet. Somewhere nearby, someone was playing music, something jazzy and complicated that drifted through open windows. As she walked to the subway, Lena thought about the journey from that freezing November night to this moment, about how one choice to give water had cascaded into everything that came after, about how the worst night of her life had somehow led to the best thing she'd ever built. Life was strange like that, painful and beautiful and completely unpredictable. You couldn't control what happened to you. But you could control how you responded, whether you turned toward kindness or away from it, whether you helped or looked away. Lena had chosen to help, and that choice had saved 2 lives, Damon's and her own. She descended into the subway, swiped her card, and waited for the train. Around her, the city breathed, lived, continued. And Lena was part of it now, not invisible, not disposable, just human, flawed and trying and maybe, possibly, enough. The train arrived. She stepped on, found a seat, pulled out her phone and looked at Ethan's drawing. The restaurant, the people, the dragon standing guard. Sometimes the world was cruel. Sometimes people failed each other. Sometimes the wrong thing happened and there was no fixing it. But sometimes, just sometimes, kindness won. Truth mattered. And a single glass of water changed everything. Lena closed her eyes and let herself believe it. Not as naive hope, but as earned knowledge. She'd seen the worst of humanity. She'd survived it, and then she'd built something better. That was enough. That was everything. The train rattled through the dark tunnels, carrying her home. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Lena felt like she actually had a home to return to. Not just an apartment, not just a place to sleep, but something real. Something hers, something worth fighting for. The story didn't end there, of course. Stories never really end. They just pause between chapters. Second Glance would face challenges. Staff would quit and need to be replaced. Critics would write harsh reviews. Profits would fluctuate. Life would continue being complicated and messy and hard. But Lena would handle it. With Marie's training and Damon's support and her own stubborn refusal to quit when things got difficult, she'd handle it because that's what you did when you built something that mattered. You fought for it. You protected it. You made it better every day. And maybe, just maybe, other people would see what she'd built and decide to try it themselves. Other restaurants, other businesses, other industries that had forgotten that workers were human beings deserving of dignity and fair treatment. Change didn't happen all at once. It happened in small moments, individual choices. One person deciding to be better, then another, until eventually the world shifted. Lena couldn't change the whole world, but she'd changed her corner of it, and that was something. That was everything. The train pulled into her station. She stepped onto the platform, climbed the stairs to street level, and walked the 3 blocks to her building. The security guards Damon had hired were gone now, no longer necessary. Life had returned to something approaching normal, except it wasn't normal. Not anymore. Normal didn't include owning a restaurant. Normal didn't include friendship with a billionaire. Normal didn't include her mother's cancer in remission and hope for the future and the belief that things could actually get better. This was something new, something uncertain, something worth waking up for. Lena unlocked her apartment. Margaret was asleep in the recliner, TV playing softly. Lena turned it off, covered her mother with the blue Afghan, and kissed her forehead. Then she went to her room, changed into pajamas, and climbed into bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new problems to solve, new opportunities to get it right or screw it up. But tonight, she'd done something impossible. She'd opened a restaurant that treated people like humans. She'd proven that kindness could be profitable. She'd built a place where the invisible became visible. And if she could do that, she could do anything. Lena closed her eyes, thought about water and strangers and choices that changed everything. Thought about dragons protecting restaurants and children who believed in heroes and mothers who lived long enough to see their daughters succeed. She fell asleep smiling. And in the morning, when she woke, she'd do it all again. Because that's what you did when you found your purpose. You showed up. You tried. You failed sometimes and succeeded others. And you kept going because the alternative, giving up, looking away, letting cruelty win, was unacceptable. Lena had learned that lesson on a freezing November night when she'd given water to a dying stranger. She'd never forget it, and she'd spend the rest of her life making sure others didn't either.